Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, Monday, May 9th, 2022.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the Riley County Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals to order. We go through our consent agenda first, and the first item on the consent agenda is public comments. These are comments from the public that people make to the board about topics other than what we're going to discuss tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any comments? If you would like to, please go to the podium and state your name and address and let us know what you're thinking. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Consider the minutes of the April 11th meeting and the report of fees for the month of April. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I'll move we approve the minutes and approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried 5-0. Okay.
Nice. Don't need one.
All right, moving on to our general. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn the meeting of the joint meeting and reconvene as the Riley County Planning Board?
I move we do so.
Second. Moved and seconded. We have no items for the Board of Zoning Appeals tonight. So we will convene as the Riley County Planning Board. At this time, if any board members have any conflict of interest or that they've had communications that they feel might influence their ability to consider any items tonight, would you please disclose those at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Our first public hearing is a request from David H. and Danielle B. Tegmeyer and LAWE LLC, petitioners and owners, to amend the preliminary and final development plans associated with the existing agribusiness planned unit development and to replat Lot 1 of Tegmeyer Addition, Unit 2, into 2 lots in the Wildcat Township, Section 8, Township 10 South, Range 7 East in Riley County, Kansas. Hey, Bob, would you like to enlighten us?
Almost there. Do some of my best reading in the dark.
I was going to say, you do need a light over there tonight.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of LAWE LLC and David and Danny Tegmeyer, David Tegmeyer has made application with Riley County Planning and Development requesting to amend the preliminary and final development plans associated with the existing agribusiness planned unit development and replat Lot 1 of Tegmeyer Addition, Unit 2, into 2 lots. The subject property is generally located approximately 9,800 feet west of Scenic Drive on the north side of Wildcat Creek Road, sections 8 and 17, Township 10 South, Range 7 East in Wildcat Township. September 2014, the applicant successfully platted Lot 1 of Tegmeyer Addition and rezoned the lot and the surrounding parent tract from AG Agricultural District to APUD Agribusiness Plan Unit Development in order to establish a viticulture operation with a winery and event center. The applicants developed Lot 1 with a single-family residence. For financing purposes, the applicants requested at the time to plat the residential portion of the proposed plan unit development into a separate lot, which became Lot 1, Tegmeyer Addition. In 2021, the applicants discovered that a portion of the parent winery tract surrounding the subject lot owned by LAWE LLC, became available for purchase. The applicants purchased said portion and replatted it with Lot 1, Tegmeyer Addition, into Lot 1, Tegmeyer Addition, Unit 2, and amended the final development plan to reflect the lot configuration of the proposed replat. Presently, the applicants wish to replat Lot 1, Tegmeyer Addition, Unit 2 into 2 lots and amend the preliminary and final development plans associated with the existing agribusiness planned unit development. The proposed changes include an additional residence on proposed Lot 1, an outdoor amphitheater, a small 4,000 square foot indoor event facility, 12 one-room cabins, a 12-pad RV park, if you will, with water, sewer, and electricity, and the conversion of a small portion of the large event center into a full-scale, full-service restaurant. As mentioned, the subject site was rezoned from AG Agricultural District to APUD, Agribusiness Planned Unit Development, in September 2014. There are no variances, conditional uses, or special uses associated with the property. Although the site is not directly located in the regulatory floodplain, I wanted to illustrate the site's proximity to Wildcat Creek. What little stormwater runoff that occurs is within watersheds located on the site. The attached stormwater drainage analysis describes the pre- and post-development changes in the stormwater runoff. And related to that is the site in its entirety has 3 separate established first-order streams that eventually feed into Wildcat Creek. A first-order stream gets its designation by originating from a point not associated with another stream. Each first-order stream is protected by a 50-foot buffer on each side of the stream and subject to Section 6.3 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. Notice that the colored lines showed on this map do not perfectly match up with the aerial. Riley County Fire District Number 1 will serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Keats Station, located at 3141 69th Avenue. The subject site is not located within 5 road miles of a fire station. Consequently, this results in the property receiving the highest ISO rating of 10 and increased response times. In order to provide an adequate volume of water and pressure for supplemental fire protection, a 100,000 gallon storage tank was installed by the owner along with a dry hydrant connection. Due to the proposed use of the proposed additional structures, there was a determination made by Riley County Emergency Management that aforementioned structures were subject to the state of Kansas minimum building and life safety codes and will require footprints to be submitted at this time. So at this time, the applicant will need to implement acceptable options given by the State Fire Marshal's Office in order to meet the fire code. So what we're looking at here is the Fort Riley noise contours. If the top half of the map is actually what you see in blue. That's the average noise levels over a period of 365 days. And the bottom map is the peak noise levels for large caliber weapons. So yeah, they would hear those too, in other words. A development memo was sent to Fort Riley Public Works. A response was received by our office May 3rd via email. They stated that the site is located near the Fort Riley military installation that generates noise by the firing of weapon systems and detonation of explosives on the installation. The site lies entirely within what is known as the Land Use Planning Zone, shown here in blue, and is located within an area modeled to be at a moderate complaint risk. This illustration was provided by Josh Pease, environmentalist with the Environmental Division on Fort Riley. This shows that the property is located approximately 225 yards from Noise Zone 2 and 1.3 miles from Noise Zone 3. Noise Zone 3 would be the impact area. According to Fort Riley's Installation Operational Noise Management Plan 2015, noise-sensitive land uses are generally acceptable within the area of the LUPZ. Again, that area is shown in blue. However, communities and individuals often have different views regarding what level of noise is acceptable or desirable. A Fort Riley, Kansas area of military impact real estate disclosure form provided by Riley County Planning and Development was signed and filed in the Office of the Register of Deeds, Book 860, page 6207, in 2014 that applies to the entire site. Additionally, a multi-jurisdictional document entitled Notice of Potential Noise Impacts from Fort Riley, Kansas Military Installation and Recommended Noise Attenuation or Attenuating Building Methods was filed with the Office of the Register of Deeds August 2020, Book 881, page 7017, and serves as an official noise disclosure notice for all properties that may be located within Noise Zone 2 or the Land Use Planning Zone. So it's not just this property. We were going up one property at a time until this point in 2020 where all the critical area for the Fort Riley as designated and legally described was subject now, or is now, or are now subject to this noise disclosure. And as stated, the document also includes recommendations on noise attenuation construction methods for residential uses. In other words, the entire site is subject to both those agreements, noise disclosures. So this is the preliminary development plan illustrating the orientation and location of the lot's boundaries and all existing and proposed buildings, structures, and driveways. Just want to stop there for a moment and let the board know that you get a chance to look at the materials and in your staff reports. And we discovered still there's a few mishaps. I'm going to cover a couple of those as we go. And some things will still, the development plans will still need to be adjusted. So there are a few changes, as mentioned, to the list of permitted uses and structures, but a lot of those remain the same and are not included in the proposed amendments. At this time, I'll go over this amended preliminary development plan in more detail. And what I've listed here are the ones that are part of the existing PUD, and then showing the amended text in yellow. So obviously viticulture, and in case anyone wants to know what that means, it's simply growing grapes. Second, we wanted to add this since this is what's happening at that site, and they are a registered agritourism provider. So agritourism as defined by Article 9 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. Number 3, manufacturing, bottling, and sale of wine and cider tasting, sale of promotional and products accessory to wine, and catered events. So what we have here is a large event center, again, already existing. And I would point it out here that a portion of that existing building would be converted into a restaurant by the conduct of conferences, meetings, business, or professional training retreats, recreational, social, or religious functions, activities, and dining. Again, they're not asking to change that text that's already there. Event centers shall be subject to the following restrictions and limitations. Parking shall only be permitted in designated areas. Event parking along Wildcat Creek Road shall be prohibited. Again, this has been in place since 2014. Any buildings or structures in which dances or playing of music or other amplification of sound occurs must be enclosed and shall be reasonably insulated, including insulation of walls and entire ceiling to mitigate the migration of noise to adjoining properties. Again, those are buildings that this attribute, this factor pays tribute to the indoors, amplification of sound indoors. And finally, a maximum indoor occupancy for the large event center shall be 375 persons. That's subject to change with the conversion of the restaurant. They'll need to get a new code footprint and just find out just exactly where they are. Some of the new things, a small event center, it'll be much like the large event center, same use limitations, if you will. but there will be no restaurant in this one. There's a submitted photo to give you a concept of what that would be what would look like. In this particular one, this is going to be what it is intended for small events, so that a smaller than 200 or so, 250 people would not have to take up the entire winery building for that. Finally, RV parking and campground. Campground is overstated there. It's just a figure of how it's read in the zoning regs, that kind of thing. But essentially, these are parking stalls, 40 by 20 stalls that are removed from the general vehicular parking area to provide more efficient and easier maneuvering of vehicles within the parking area. So there will be a maximum of 12 pads with access to potable water and electricity and sewer disposal. The applicant has not decided whether he would like to move forward with the sewer disposal. That has not been finalized in his decision. But we treat it as if that were to be the case, can it be done? And the evaluation to sanitary code, Mr. Perry Piper has cleared this as doable and would be in compliance with the sanitary code. Number 10, lodging accommodations, cabins intended for participants and guests, an outdoor amphitheater, approximately 3,000 seats, or seating for 3,000. And on this one, I wanted to point out that in your packet, there was a difference between Lot 1 and Lot 2. The current lot, there was an impression given that there was a single-family residence. It's just confusion. A single-family residence plus a garage with an accessory apartment over the garage. There's only a single-family residence there. And there's no plan from the applicant. He's not proposing an accessory apartment as part of this. So that got eliminated and simplified it. So Lot 1, current Lot 1, which be Lot 2 with the proposed replat, currently has one residence on it. That's it. The two-car garage is underneath the house, like a typical single-family residence. The proposed Lot 1 will have a single-family residence, and they are allowed to have the accessory structures as per the use requirements of Section 5.3 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. So what this is simply doing is mimicking Riley County's large lot single-family residential zoning, which now is SF1. Now going on to the permitted structures. Obviously, the winery, large event center, restaurant should probably be in yellow. Accessory structures associated with agricultural activities include the implement storage. The one entrance sign already there. Small event center, approximately 4,000 square feet with a maximum indoor capacity of 250 persons. That's a projection. It could be less. And 12 one-room cabins, approximately 200 to 300 square feet, not very big at all. And one outdoor amphitheater stage and seating for approximately 300 patrons.
3,000.
3,000, excuse me. Good catch. List of permitted structures. Lot 1 and Lot 2, again, going back to the actual structures themselves, one single-family residence, several, one. And accessory structures as per Section 5.3 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. Here are the notes that are, again, several of them are the exact same notes that have been, were approved in 2014. Some of them were updated in 2020, 2021 with that replat. And I start the list at 4 because 1 through 3 really deal with the boundary line survey type stuff and are really impertinent for this group here. So if an entrance pipe is required, the minimum size shall be calculated in accordance with the Riley County Standards for Road Design in platted subdivisions. In no case shall that diameter of that pipe be less than 15 inches. Why this is important, with the proposed Lot 1 with a new home, they most likely will need to have one. All drives and parking areas shall consist of all-weather surfacing. The drives accessing the cabin, small event center, large event center, and parking area, again, additional wording in yellow, shall be at least 20 feet wide in accordance with fire code, and that's state fire code, and to provide two-way traffic. More on that later, by the way. The gravel driveway to the event center and winery shall be maintained in condition that is traversable by emergency response vehicles. Owners will resurface and maintain all drives and parking area surfaces on a regular schedule or as needed to provide overall good-looking appearance for visitors. But the road will be fully maintained for complete access to all vehicles year-round. Number 8, site and all uses therein shall be in compliance with the Riley County Sanitary Code. Proposed Lot 1 shall be served by a rural water district, number 1, and it's already been determined that it will need an on-site wastewater lagoon. Proposed Lot 2, which is currently Lot 1, is already served by rural water and a sanitary lateral field. Tract A, the winery, is currently served with potable water by rural water district number 1 and an on-site wastewater lagoon. So 9, locations and extent of fencing and trails may be modified at the owner's discretion as required to serve the permitted uses. Again, that has not changed. Buildings and structures shall comply with state of Kansas minimum building and life safety codes per the 2006 IBC and the 2000 NFPA 101. Maximum permitted occupancy shall be posted in the winery event center building and the small event center. Again, not a whole lot of reason to change that. The winery event center building, now buildings, shall meet the minimum building code requirements as per the state fire marshal. All structures and signs are shown in approximate locations. All proposed lighting shall have directional control or appropriate cutoffs to minimize spillage and light trespass onto the neighbors or the street. Existing riparian areas and native tree stands shall remain intact as much as possible to act as an audio and visual buffer to surrounding properties. All areas, unless improved, will remain agriculture. This is going to be modified slightly more so dealing with the suggested requirements of the fire department. So all stormwater drainage from the development areas of Lot 2 and the winery event center tract shall be directed to the existing detention pond that's located on current Lot 1. All signs shall be subject to Section 6.12 signs of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. That's simply a change of the reference from the previous zoning regulations. And number 17, a Fort Riley, Kansas area of military impact real estate disclosure form provided by Riley County Planning and Development, as I mentioned earlier, has been signed and filed in the Office of the Register of Deeds, and the implementing noise attenuation construction methods for residential uses as described in this document, strongly recommended. The landowner has 100% interest in the land to be developed. That's a requirement in the regulations to have this posted on the development plan, and they have to have the financial control to be capable to effectuate the proposed plan. Number 19, areas marked as riparian zones are subject to the requirements of Section 6.3 riparian buffer of the Riley County Development Regulations, and that deals primarily with those first order streams that you see located on the property. And number 20, noise levels from amplification of sound, indoor or outdoor, shall be controlled and mitigated so as to not exceed 65 dBA at the property line. A dBA shall be equivalent continuous sound levels, which shall measure amplified noise generated within the property over a 10-minute period along the involved property line. So this is at any property line. And finally, that is, I just want to go back one, that is not being suggested or to be flexed or manipulated in any way, modified, I should say. And finally, this is another one that is not being requested to be changed. Quiet hours during which no amplified sound will be permitted shall be posted on site and shall be between 11 p.m. And 8 a.m. for Friday and Saturday, and 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. for Sunday through Thursday. Okay, Planning and Development had some discussions with Raleigh County Emergency Management and Rural Fire, and they had a few things to add to this. These were brought up to the applicant, just to kind of give them fair warning that these are going to be asked for, and there didn't seem to be any disagreement that these needed to be in place. So the NFPA driveway standards shall be met for all roadways that have adjacent structures, which provide ample entrance and exit for emergency vehicles. We, again, already have something like that. This might be even better. The proposed parking spaces, which are 500, measured on a one stall per 4 to 6 people range, shall not interfere with the ability to access the existing water supply tank. The access to the water supply tank shall be maintained all weather surface. NFPA driveway standards shall not be compromised in the design of the RV parking areas or the passenger vehicle areas. In other words, they cannot be blocked. Fire lanes along the adjacent winery structure and proposed event center shall be designated as such and be free and clear from passenger vehicles, RVs, or other hazards preventing adequate access for emergency vehicles. If it's a fire lane, it needs to be maintained as clear, kept clear. Number 4, due to the surrounding landscapes, wildland fire mitigation and best practices should be used to mitigate fire fuels and limit spread per NFPA FireWise community recommendations. Lakewood Winery Estate outside property shall be managed to mitigate aggressive wildfire behavior and provide a defensible space to staff and visitors. And again, this is an effort to keep the patron, the establishment safe, structures and the folks. The proposed future event center shall be properly identified with signage and a fire department connection to supply required hose cabinets and sprinkler system. A centralized alarm panel shall be installed per NFPA in accordance with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Number 6, proposed cabins shall be required to have a fire extinguisher and sufficient defensible space of decorate rock, perhaps, and a non-combustible roof material in the event of a wildland fire. Adequate NFPA emergency vehicle access shall be required to each cabin. Proper visibility addressing and reflective identification in low light shall be made between the roadway and water storage tank. That's good to be able to find it in the dark. That's awfully dark out there if the electricity goes. Knox box will be required for property to provide fire department access to keys for all structures on the complex. And finally, it is suggested that long-term planning efforts be considered for the need of additional water tank for any additional required fire flow for new structures added to the complex. Now, I wanted to stop just a moment here, go through here and get caught up here. The schedule of improvements here. We're going to list the stuff that has already been done, but it's on there. Single-family residence constructed on proposed Lot 2, current Lot 1. An event center and winery, and you know that's been completed, in the parking lot that serves it, and the driveway. An entrance sign has also been constructed and placed, and the grapevines have been planted, harvested, I believe. Now, a few new things. The amphitheater and parking lot expansion be constructed on Tract A, according to this year. Ambitious. There are 12 cabins which will be constructed on Tract A by April 25. So not everything's happening at the same time. RV parking will be constructed on Tract A at the same time the cabins are. The small event center will be constructed on Tract A by April of 2027. I want to kind of get to the actual plan. I know that's not the easiest thing to see, so I kind of colored a few of the highlights here. This is the north half of the preliminary development plan. It shows the contours of the site, the location of the vineyards, the existing winery event center, shown in blue, and the driveway accessing the site. Regarding proposed development, the plan shows the approximate size and location of the small event center building in yellow, expanded gravel parking area, pad parking for the 12 RVs, and the approximate location of the 12 cabins, and corresponding wastewater lagoon. That wastewater lagoon located approximately in this area right here will also serve this small event center here. So due to the lay of the land and this and that, and then the effort to keep this a healthy lagoon, because there's not, quite frankly, going to have the effluent going into it to keep this in a really good condition unless they add things to it. This right here will be brought into the cab or into the lagoon. And maybe the downspouts off of the roof line, if there's any guttering at all, will go into this as well. Again, and note that that lagoon is an approximate location. They're going to keep it away from that ravine there, that first order stream. The proposed small event center and cabins will be served by rural water and a communal lagoon, as mentioned. As mentioned previously, all drives shall be at least 20 feet wide, and I'll be all with a surface to serve those lagoons. Okay, this is about the halfway point, moving further south. This view of the development plan focuses in on the existing winery event center, again shown in blue, and existing outdoor wedding ceremony area, proposed parking lot expansion, and the location of a proposed outdoor amphitheater. The amphitheater is proposed to have a seating capacity of 3,000 guests, with the stage area on the south end directing amplified sound northward toward the existing winery building. The applicant stated that the stage, lights, and the sound equipment will be brought in per each event and set up by a professional sound crew until such time the applicant says he's able to build his own stage. He stated that they plan to have approximately 8 to 10 events a year and use porta potties for temporary restroom facilities, which are acceptable as per the sanitary code typical in event type uses like this. And finally, the south portion of the development plan focuses in on the request to replat Lot 1 of Tetmeyer Edition, Unit 2, into 2 lots. And as you can see, Lot 2 is approximately the same size as it was to begin with, around 7 acres, and they simply platted the rest of it. This is a 30-acre lot, so there's quite a bit of room. This is that it's a detention pond for the stormwater drainage coming off of this and off of this lot here. The applicants have expressed that they have outgrown their current home and need to build another home. Thus, they wish to divide the 37-acre lot into 2, proposing to build a new house on proposed Lot 1. But the plan indicates that both lots will have identical permitted uses and use limitations of the SF1 single-family residential zoning district, Riley County's large lot single-family residential zoning district. Incidentally, the plan also shows the location of the first order stream located on proposed Lot 1. Again, is subject to the development standards of Section 6. And along with that, with the required 50-foot buffer measured from perpendicularly from each stream bank. And this is the final plat. This illustrates the orientation and location of the lot's boundaries, the house, the lagoon, and detention pond. When the time comes to construct the house on proposed Lot 1, the applicant will need to contact Public Works to receive approval for an entrance onto Wildcat Creek Road. Got a few pics of the site. These were borrowed from the internet and various websites to illustrate the current development. This pic shows the east elevation of the existing winery building and existing outdoor wedding ceremony area seating in the foreground. This pic also shows generally where the proposed location will be for the outdoor amphitheater down this draw right here, with the stage at the tree line, aiming back up here toward the winery. And you can also see beyond here where there's the existing parking. This area here will be, well, not all of it, but some of it here will be the expanded parking lot, closer to the fort. So the noise-sensitive uses of the cabin will be actually on the opposite side. The applicant is, as mentioned earlier, the applicant is proposing to convert a portion of the existing building into a full-service restaurant rather than be strictly dependent on caterers. The applicant has stated they feel they can provide a better, fresher food product on site. A few more pics illustrating the existing winery event center. Note, no portion of any portion of the vineyards on site will be removed, diminished, or eliminated for the purposes of this proposed development mentioned earlier. So the agricultural use still remains prominent use. This is a couple of examples of outdoor amphitheaters. This is submitted by the applicant. These are not necessarily exact renderings of how the proposed amphitheater will look like, or how it will be constructed, only to serve as a general concept. That one. The applicant can better describe the details of this proposal, how he wants to see it. Also submitted by the applicant is an example of the size, style, and layout of the 200 to 300 square foot cabins. Note that each cabin will have a built-in kitchenette and be served by rural water and communal wastewater lagoon. So these are not primitive cabins. It's not that get those up there and they're going to be ruining the environment. They're going to be tapped in to central services. This is a general concept of the small event center. This happens to be Kay's Garden and event venue at Gage Park Zoo in Topeka. Again, the exact design may replicate the general concept, but the exact detailed building plans have not yet been completed or submitted. It is proposed that the small event center will have a maximum capacity, or occupancy, I should say, of 270 persons, and will not include a restaurant. So that what you see there is for small groups. So, as part of the request, some of the concerns that were brought up in the pre-application conference prior to the application being submitted are stormwater due to quite a bit more impervious area being introduced to the site. Also, obviously noise or outdoor amplified sound. Also, one last one is a traffic impact study due to events being held at the winery. We'll begin with stormwater drainage analysis. The stormwater drainage analysis was completed by Jeff Hancock of SMH Consultants. He is in attendance this evening. If you have any specific questions regarding this, we'd be glad to speak to you of this results. Analysis provided an overview of the site and its topographical attributes. The analysis evaluated pre- and post-development impacts of stormwater runoff and the potential increase of the rate of runoff. Stormwater drainage analysis summarized that given the pre- and post-plan development characteristics of the Liquid Arts Winery and state PUD amendments, there are no negative impacts created from the perspective of stormwater. The North Basin calculates to no net increase in the rate of runoff. The West and East Basins show small increases in the rates of runoff from each, but these increases are abated through an existing pond, that detention pond, on site. Moving on to sound noise assessment. The sound noise assessment was completed by Eric McGowan from Henderson Engineers of Kansas City area. The analysis provided an overview of the site, its topographical attributes, existing and proposed sources of noise or amplified sound. So everything was included here, not just what's already there, but the stuff that's being proposed, as you would want. The analysis evaluated pre- and post-development impacts and measured distances from indoor and outdoor sources to the property line, to each property line. be affected. Fort Riley on the west, not so much a concern, it turns out. The noise assessment noted that the existing standard of 65 dBA, that's the standard that's on the PUD now. They used that to be as a measurement at the property line. That was used for the assessment, as the standard is not being changed, not being proposed to be changed. The analysis provided recommendations as to sound absorbing materials, installation of enclosed buildings, along with recommended volume levels to meet the above standard. The assessment included the sound study completed and submitted as part of the original PUD application. Staff noted that the 65 dBA standard is consistent with the use-specific standards for a rural resort, retreat, or event center as per Section 5.2 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations, which suggests that when considering approval for such uses, the board should consider the potential for any use to generate noise that may unreasonably disturb the peace and quiet or comfort of adjacent properties. Benchmark to use in dBA or greater at the property line, when considering a noise caused by noise, shall be whether or not to use, if the use itself generates 65 dBA or greater at the property line. The hours of the day this level of noise is generated, and how often this level of noise occurs. If it is determined that such potential for disturbances of adjacent properties exist, the board shall consider methods to mitigate such noise. So one of the points I derived from that study was that they weren't recommending changing the 65 decibel standard. They were saying that if there is going to be noise generated, it had to be to a certain level that did not exceed that standard. So, traffic impact analysis. The traffic impact analysis was also completed by Jeff Hancock of SMH Consultants. Again, he is here this evening with us to answer any questions regarding the studies. The analysis provided an overview of the site and the traffic attributes of Wildcat Creek Road. Although there exists a concern regarding potential for negative traffic impacts caused by events occurring at the Winery Amphitheater, the study stated there are no metrics or standards for determining the impacts of event traffic, the type of traffic expected with the amphitheater, and as a matter of practice, roadways are not designed for event traffic. As quoted here, there is no way to reasonably address the delay at the intersection of Wildcat Creek Road and Scenic Drive, though the study does a really good job of talking about it, which is the very reason why roadways are not designed for event traffic. During event departures, drivers are generally agreeable with and expect some delay. They understand it's going to take a little bit to get it going. And that's with anyone. Locally, this event, or this happens several times a year in Manhattan during football games and less often during basketball games, both K-State and Manhattan. So it happens, and any event, any sporting event for sure, any concert, that kind of thing will cause that. So in reviewing the proposed changes and additions to the development plan for the site and the corresponding studies to address potential concerns, staff offers the following. The proposed cabins, RV pads, and additional residents are inherently noise-sensitive uses, whether for business or personal purposes. The proximity to Fort Riley Noise Zone 2, noise from daily military activities on Fort Riley may have a negative impact on such uses. However, the property owner has signed and filed with the Register of Deeds at Fort Riley, Kansas, Area of Military Impact Real Estate Disclosure Form in 2014, which includes the entire site. I spoke with the gentleman from Fort Riley this morning regarding this, and he understands that development can occur within the land use planning zone, as shown, but there's the close to Fort Riley land use planning zone and the one further away. So like anything else, he's just expressing that it could get noisy at times. All new development, including the proposed cabins, additional event center, RV pads, full-service restaurant within the existing winery building, amphitheater, and new residents shall be served by rural water and shall be in compliance with the sanitary code, including the construction of one additional wastewater lagoon and the planned expansion of the existing one. And of course, that's not counting the one that will serve the brand-new house on the proposed Lot 1. Number 3, the requirement regarding noise levels from amplification of sound indoor or outdoor shall be controlled and mitigated so as to not exceed 65 dBA at the property line, and which shall measure amplified noise generated within the property line over a 10-minute period along the involved property line. That standard is not changing. I'll just emphasize that. Note that this standard does not prohibit outdoor amplification of sound. It never did. It said it had to be controlled. This includes the proposed amphitheater as described in the site noise assessment. Number 4, although the site is hilly and has several watersheds, the proposed change in the ratio of developed or impervious areas to natural areas is negligible. Stormwater drainage analysis concludes that there will be minimal, if not imperceptible, impact to stormwater runoff. 5, the traffic impact analysis describes the current status and maintenance aspects of Wildcat Creek Road and potential adverse impacts the proposed amphitheater could have on the level of service at intersections caused by event traffic, particularly following an event. However, the study concluded that no improvements are recommended to the roadway network at this time, as it is generally not efficient nor reasonable to design roadways to accommodate event traffic. The county engineer has stated that the Wildcat Creek Road will be paved and geometrically improved as part of a sales tax revenue project within the next 3 to 5 years. And that pavement will go from Scenic Drive to approximately this location here. It will not go past this point. For Riley. Based on the information submitted and reviews by the staff, I would like to point out other things. The site is equipped with a 100,000-gallon water tank fitted with a dry hydrant connection in order to provide supplemental fire protection. The proposed 4,000 square foot event center and the new restaurant must provide code footprints provided by a licensed architect, which are reviewed by Riley County Emergency Management and Rural Fire. These structures will be subject to the state fire code. They have options to meet that fire code. Porta potties will be used during events held at the proposed amphitheater in order to provide adequate temporary restroom facilities. This is consistent with the sanitary code and is generally accepted practice for such uses. Many of the existing and proposed uses are consistent with what is typically included with a rural resort retreat center or agritourism facility, including live entertainment, weddings, and other events, lodging, and meals. Regardless of the proposed ancillary uses, the prominent and most significant use of the site is still agricultural use, which is viticulture. And significant use of the site, the production of a value-added agricultural product, which is wine. Proposed uses or amendments are considered accessory to the principal use, agriculture. And lastly, the Kansas Agritourism Promotion Act was signed into law in 2004. The purpose of the act is to promote the growth of the agritourism industry in Kansas. The act deems agritourism activities as an activity which allows members of the general public for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes to view or enjoy rural activities, including, but not limited to, farming activities, ranching activities, or historic, cultural, or natural attractions. Based on the information submitted and reviews by county staff, planning staff believes the potential concerns with the request have been adequately addressed and recommends that the board forward a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners to amend the preliminary and final development plans for the Tegmeyer Winery Plan Unit development. Also, staff recommends approval of the final plat of Tegmeyer Addition Unit 3, as has been determined to meet the minimum requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. That's all I have. If you have any direct questions for me, or if some more particular questions, anybody, I believe the petitioner would like to have his presentation as well following me.
Do any of the board members have a question for Bob?
I have one.
Okay?
Lot number 1,
Yep.
where's their driveway at?
You look at the screen. This is their driveway, and this is,
That's lot number 2, though.
oh, current lot now,
No.
or proposed?
No, for the
It's-
proposed.
Okay, that will
The
have,
new lot number 1, the 30 acres.
sure, that will have to happen over here. Again, they're
All right, well,
gonna,
you
it's
did-
not there now.
Yeah, you didn't have that drawn in on your map on
No.
here. So
Yeah,
that's what I was
that has
confused
to,
about.
that's yet to be determined.
Oh, okay.
The Public Works has to do an assessment to find out where that needs to be.
Okay. And meet the
Yes, sir.
new standard, driveway standards, too. Yep. Okay. I was just curious. I didn't see that drawn in on here, so, okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I just had an observation, if they're gonna build the amphitheater in a draw, what are they gonna do with the current water runoff when it rains with that water that normally goes down that draw? How are they gonna handle the water going?
They'll have to be engineered so that the stormwater drains in and around it, and it ends up right here in this detention pond where it goes now. It's kind of anything else that's developed in a draw. It just has to be engineered properly, or it'll completely wipe them out, so, yeah.
That's what like struck me, as they're putting it in a draw.
They're going to try, from what the applicant has shared with us, they want to use the natural barrier and bring the sound down and try to contain it naturally. And of course, whatever isn't contained naturally, they'll just handle through volume. They're going to make it work. And of course, absorption of the patrons and any grass and things like that, and actual earth is going to absorb sound as it comes at it. So, obviously not everything, but yeah.
Bob, I had one question also. You said a restaurant. Is that just for catering, or it is a full-service restaurant?
Full service restaurant.
Okay.
So they'll be able to prepare, literally licensed, they'll be able to serve food.
But patrons can come and just dine there?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
okay.
And we decided not to get into the business hours or something like that.
No, that's fine. I
It's a
just,
managed business.
at first, I just thought it was a catering kitchen.
Yeah, that's
And-
kind of what
no,
they have
okay.
now. Again, it's one of those, you can better control things, the quality of things, if you're handling it yourself.
Oh, yes.
And that's essentially what they really want to do.
Yeah.
Now, even with that, there's going to be certain things that will need to be added to the restaurant. There's going to need to be a grease trap and all that good stuff. And there's this lagoon here will most likely be expanded, but that they were planning for that expansion already when that went in. So it's not like they don't have anywhere to go with it, and it's going to be impossible.
Okay,
So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and turn the light on.
okay.
I'm getting sleepy.
Whoa. Everybody wake up now. So, all right, would the applicant like to say anything? We ask that all speakers come to the podium, give your name and your address, and we are going to have some time limitations on the proponents and opponents of the resolution tonight, but the applicant does not have a time constraint. But Bob's pretty much covered a lot of it there, so anyway, so would the applicant like to come up at this time? Okay, that's fine.
We are David and Danielle Tegmeyer, 1929 Wildcat Creek Road. We want to thank Bob for presenting everything to everybody, and for the rest of you who spent your evening with us. We appreciate your guys' time. For those of you that don't know us, we're Dave and Danny. We live on the Wildcat Creek Winery property, and we made it our home about 7 years ago. We were born in Kansas, lived and raised. When I met David in college, he had shared with me one of the first things was, I'm only going to be here for a little while before I move to California and move back here because I want to build a vineyard and a winery. And I shortly jumped on that dream, went into marketing in hopes that we can create a team one day where he'd make the wine and I would sell it. And we're very fortunate that we are able to live out that dream and share that dream with others. And we're hoping to expand on that dream.
Yeah. It's been almost 8 years, I guess, since we stood in this room originally. That was when we met a lot of you for the first time. Since then, we've become friends with a lot of you, which we're grateful for. I grew up in a small rural community, and like I said that first time I met a lot of you, I was always taught that neighbors should be friends, like family, because you never know when you'll need them. Some of you, you've come to our aid in our times of need, and we can never thank you enough for those times. You guys met us and looked at us as two crazy kids pursuing a crazy dream nobody knew anything about, a winery. We made it happen through lots of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of hard work. We created what we believe is an asset and a gem to our community that we love. As times change and things evolve, our business, our livelihood, what we have our life into has to evolve also. With the agritourism, we've looked at lots of ways that we can grow and evolve, and these are simple ways that allow us to do that on our property. We came to this room asking for the ability to grow and build our dream 8 years ago, and we're asking for the ability to grow and build on that today.
Anything else? Board members have any questions?
Yeah, we're open ears for questions on any of it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Thank you. Okay, from here, we're going to go with opponents first, and then proponents. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. To please address the board, because we're the ones that are making the decision, not the public. And that if a point has been made, that you not repeat that point all over again. You can say that you concur with it or whatever, but just to keep rehashing the same stuff, I don't think any of us want to be here all night, so that would be the reason we would do that and stuff. So anyway, so.
Anybody have more than 3 minutes? Some of us have.
Well, if there is someone that is representing a larger group of people, yes, we will give you more than 3 minutes. We'll give you 6 minutes. And you will be timed. So do we have any opponents? And again, come to the podium, say your name and address, and address your comments to the board. Well, and if you're speaking for a group, tell us how many people, and so that we know what to give you.
Board member, keep passing it down.
You want my title? I'll share it with you.
Well, I'm speaking for my family. Does that give me 6 minutes?
A family is 2 people, right?
No, it's actually 4 of us.
I really, how about 4 minutes? What, a minute for each person then?
All right. I had about a 7 to 8 minute speech, but I guess I'll get started. My name is Mike Sheffield. I live at 1700 Wildcat Creek Road. We're right here, that's our house. We also have the land back here, and then my wife and I own a 60-acre land right here as well, just south of the winery. And I would describe this as an ambitious PUD for a rural area. I hope that you do take time to consider all those points. I'd like to talk about what I think is the most ambitious part of this amended PUD, which is the amphitheater, and its intended or unintended consequences. We were told that there were going to be about 6 events. We hear now it's 8 to 10. I would like for you to codify that, if you could, in the PUD, the number of events. What is an event? Is an event a multi-day event? Are we going to try to have Country Stampede out here? Is it something that can go on all day, multiple days? Or is it something in the evening on a Thursday night from 6:30 to 8:30 with quiet time? Or are we going to talk about all-day events from 8 to 11 o'clock at night? That's a question I would have, and I'd like to see that codified as well, if you could. The traffic analysis said that there's no metrics or standards, and I'd like to come back to that later if I can. But what I'd like to tell you is that what I passed out to each board member, if you take 1,200 cars, which is what SMH said is going to come down that road, I think it's probably 1,500, 2 people per seat. Let's say you use 1,200 people, 1,200 cars coming. If the average size of a car is 20 feet times 1,200 vehicles, that is a line of about 4.5 miles of cars. So when you empty out that amphitheater after an event, you're going to get 1,200 cars leaving the amphitheater and the event center. You're going to have a line of 4.5 miles long of cars. There's only 1.8 miles from the winery to Scenic. So you're going to have cars all the way back up, all the way up from Scenic Drive, all the way up Wildcat Creek Road, up the winery driveway, which is only one way in and out, and back up into the parking lot. It's going to take a long time. Imagine that, 4.5 miles of cars coming out of there. At the intersection of Scenic and Wildcat Creek Road, the SMH study said it's going to take 80 seconds, level service F, the worst possible, 80 seconds to turn people out of there. I think that's kind of long. But even if you take 20 seconds, which is the average time it takes for me to turn from Wildcat Creek Road onto Scenic Drive, take 20 seconds per vehicle times 1,200 vehicles, that's 6 hours. 6 hours to empty out that event. I think that's not going to make people very happy, sitting in the line for 6 hours. And what about emergency traffic? What about local traffic? What about emergency vehicles? And that doesn't count traffic from their event centers and the Prairie Wood Event Center as well. So what could you do to mitigate this? Well, I would say obviously don't approve the amphitheater. That's your best mitigation of this problem. You could do traffic control with RCPD, but then you have to stop traffic going north and south on Scenic. If you stop traffic going north and south on Scenic Drive, particularly coming south, there's a roundabout just north of there. So what you're going to do is you're going to let the traffic out on Wildcat Creek Road on the Scenic, but you're going to back the traffic back north into the roundabout. Traffic's going to be stopped in the roundabout. You got Anderson coming in east and west in the roundabout, Scenic north and south. You're going to back traffic into that roundabout, and you're going to create chaos, gridlock. That's not going to work. I would just say one last thing, that if you're going to pave the road, we heard 3 to 5 years. Well, if you have this event traffic, and then you try to pave Wildcat Creek Road, you're going to have traffic Armageddon, because you're going to have to close one lane of that road or close the road completely while these events are going on. I would say at least wait on the amphitheater until the road is paved. Thank you for your time.
Okay, do we have any other opponents? Mrs. Sheffield, I thought your husband was speaking for the group.
Well, he's not. I'm speaking for a different group. I'm speaking for all of the residents who live up and down Wildcat Creek Road who will be impacted by the traffic. And I also just want to say that I would have appreciated, we have worked very hard on what we have to present tonight, and not one of us has probably more than 5 to 6 minutes. But to not be given more than 3 minutes and not be told until tonight that we have 3 minutes to defend something that is going to impact us for the rest of our lives is a hard pill to swallow. But I am speaking on behalf of every resident up and down Wildcat Creek Road who will be impacted by the traffic. So with that said, apparently you already know who I am, so.
Would you please state your name and address?
My name is Karen Sheffield, and I live at 1700 Wildcat Creek Road, immediately across the street from the winery. And I want to start out by saying we love our neighbors. We love Dave and Danny. But we don't love everything associated with this plan. And please be assured that any criticism that I offer is not against them, it's against the plan. And that said, I am just wanting to, I practiced this, it's 5 minutes, and I'm trying to figure out how to take 2 minutes out.
3 pages in 3 minutes.
I have 2 pages.
Then you should be able to do it.
Okay. I wanted to streamline it, so I wrote it. But I can't endorse the ambitious PUD for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is its scope. It proposes, as we heard, the addition of luxury cabins, a full-service restaurant, an RV park, a new event center, and an outdoor amphitheater with seating capacity for 3,000. All of this in an area unserved for sewer, streetlights, safe roadway, or even decent internet service. Because I can't wrap my brain around everything being proposed here, I'm just focusing on 3 areas: traffic, noise, and safety, but primarily traffic.
Ma'am, I was going to say he's already addressed the traffic
I'm going to
issue.
address some things that are different.
Okay.
With regard to the traffic, I think it's a well-known fact that Wildcat Creek Road is an unpaved, dusty, narrow, unimproved road that parallels a winding creek bed notorious for capturing and toppling unsuspecting drivers into the creek. Yes, the county has told us that they do plan to blacktop the road, but even after the road is blacktopped, it will still be the same road, just without the dust. According to the traffic report, as my husband said, the intersection of Wildcat Creek Road and Scenic Drive will drop to a service level of F once the proposed changes are implemented, and F is the lowest level of service. Without going in, and I'm glad that my husband passed out the metrics of the math, because we went through this so many times, and every time we went through it, the traffic wait lines could vary at the minimum of 6 hours, and according to the traffic study, it could be 26 hours. So it should be noted that these cars would be exiting from a facility that has only one way in and one way out, and will be emptying into a road with no side streets for a stretch of 5 miles from Scenic Drive to Eureka Drive. With regard to the noise, the PUD proposes an outdoor amphitheater that accommodates seating for up to 3,000. This involves amplified sound in a heretofore quiet residential agricultural community known for its peaceful ambience, hardly what I would call compatible use. I would also like to point out the incongruity of the PUD on page 3 under the list of permitted uses. Number 7B states, any buildings or structures in which dances or playing of music or other amplification of sound occurs must be enclosed and shall be reasonably insulated, including insulation of walls and entire ceiling, to mitigate the migration of noise to adjoining properties. However, under the same list of permitted uses, number 11 states outdoor amphitheater with approximately 3,000 seats. There seems like a contradiction there. With regard to safety, I was glad to see, because when I saw the initial PUD, there had been no report yet made from emergency services or rural fire services. So what I had prepared was, I'm going to alter just a little bit. So I was glad to see that they did address some of the issues on site, but one of the things that I didn't see addressed was the issues associated with the traffic and the need to get through when potentially 4.5 miles of cars are backed up on a road that is, in some places, only a lane and a half. Beyond that, with regard to the safety, I believe that there are a number of safety concerns that may be unique in this particular proposal that do need to be addressed. And I only have 3/4 of a page left and six things on my list. First of all, there's alcohol. The very foundation of the winery's business is to sell alcohol. We already mentioned the challenges associated with the road. Now, let's add to the road challenges the fact that most of the drivers leaving the winery will have imbibed in some form of alcohol over the course of the evening. It just has to be taken into consideration when you think of safety. Weather. There are no storm shelters on the winery's premises. The outdoor amphitheater will primarily operate during the spring and summer months when storms are most likely to occur. Should a tornado warning be issued during an event, and I say in quote events, because recognizing that an event could be anywhere from 2 hours to several days in duration, attendees would have nowhere to take refuge, and they would be stuck in hours of deep traffic if they attempted to head into town. Flooding. And speaking of weather, one cannot ignore the fact that Wildcat Creek Road is notorious for flooding. Regardless of the pavement status of the road, flooding will continue to be an issue. Imagine the potential chaos if Wildcat Creek floods with 4.5 miles of cars backed up on it.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off.
So I have one more item on my list.
Fine then.
Public health. The PUD states that porta potties will be used for human waste and sanitation needs. What metrics will be used, particularly for events lasting multiple days, for the maintenance and cleaning of those porta potties? As an aside, I find it interesting that only a few years ago, another Wildcat Creek landowner proposed the use of porta potties for servicing human waste and sanitation needs in conjunction with a crowd of approximately 200, and that neighbor was told that would not be allowed. So I just think it also noteworthy that was also during a pre-pandemic time when there was much less concern with regard to the impact of restroom facility cleanliness on public health. If it was not in the best interest of public safety for a crowd of 200 a few years ago in a pre-pandemic world, why is it now okay for a potential crowd of 3,000? And so that concludes what I have to present. Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other opponents?
Have just a few.
That's fine. You got 3 minutes.
Okay.
And your name and address,
Been
please.
scratching some out. My name is Eddie Eastus. I live at 5707 Saddle Rock Road, which is the one road to the south that exits off of Wildcat Creek Road. Okay, so I drive the road quite often. I concur with previous comments in regards to traffic concerns. I've been driving the road for 17 years, so I've experienced a lot of it. One other point I think we need to make sure we're well aware of, we're talking about road improvements and the Riley County Road and Bridge Sales Tax. That question didn't detail out what improvements were going to occur. That question was a little more generic than that. I know that the advertisement or the lead up and all the information in regards to the sales tax had example projects. The question is not that detailed. So my concern, there is no assurance that those improvements are going to occur. Those will have to be designed and bid and moved on to the county commission for final approval. I can't see the assurance at this point that those improvements that everybody's speaking of are set in stone. That's a concern because we're talking about substantial need for road improvements. But I don't think anybody can give me any assurance it's going to happen at this point. The other aspect is just compliance with the Riley County Comp Plan. I think some things that are stated in the Riley County Comp Plan are the importance of the rural nature, the rural character, as well as just the agricultural aspect. As we're taking some land and we're increasing parking, we're increasing sewage, lagoon, expanding sewage, you're reducing the agricultural potential, for a piece of property. And I feel that adding an RV aspect, adding increased parking, taking a roadway that's currently a rural, gravel roadway and improving that to a paved roadway, all those things give me concern that we're moving away from the rural nature of the area, which has been important to me and a reason why I've lived where I've lived the last 17 years. So we need to think about those. The comp plan, states the importance of the rural nature of Riley County and the preservation of the agricultural aspect. I think, again, I've been to both of the venues on the road and I've enjoyed them both. They seem to be very successful. My concern is just the expansion and the impacts expansion is going to occur. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any other opponents?
You're going first? Yeah.
I'm David Adams, and I'm 1725 Wildcat Creek Road, which is right next to the winery. And
Mr. Adams, before you get started, you're speaking as one.
We're speaking as two people. We'll go to 3 minutes for both of us, okay?
Okay.
But Mrs. Sheffield said she was
speaking for all of you folks.
She said she was speaking for all you folks on Wildcat Creek Road.
That's the other folks.
Well,
Excuse me, I said I was speaking with regard to the traffic. I think they're going to address.
You're supposed to address the traffic.
I'm addressing something entirely different, so. Is that okay?
I would appreciate that
Okay.
that you not say anything about the traffic.
I won't. I can't even agree with it, okay.
I mean, yes, if you agree with it, that's great. Tell us that and stuff.
That is an agreement with us. Anyway, this is my wife, Carol Adams, and I'm David Adams, 1725 Wildcat Creek Road. We're going to address the cabins a little bit. They're directly north of us, and there's listed as 12 cabins listed on that PUD, and there's 16 cabins drawn on there. Each cabin has a 20 by 40 foot parking area. Each cabin is to accommodate 2 residents. Questions we have: these are located approximately 450 foot from the north property line, directly up the hill from our home. The riparian barrier shown in the plans will not provide noise attenuation from guests during the returning to the cabins following a wedding and engaging in outside conversations. If you've ever been outside in the country, sound goes a long ways. Where the plans to address is noise, inconvenience, and interruptions. Other facilities with similar cabins report that guests do not leave events to return to their cabins. They'd rather stand outside, drink beer, and have loud music. So that, and if they want to, they'll have a fire pit, because that's just the way people treat you. And generally disrespect privacy of others, and who will enforce these quiet hours at cabins? As currently no quiet hours are listed for the cabins. How does this current plan address the right to privacy, peace, and quiet for us? Lagoon currently is built in a downward slope in the hill and located directly to the front of the cabins. Should the lagoon fail, the potential for a runoff onto our property and into the Wildcat Creek exists. Each cabin has a 20 by 40 foot parking lot, of course, and sufficient for 4 vehicles. Where are these additional vehicles? Addressed in the report, it says the cabins will accommodate 2 people. What kind of lighting will exist around the cabins to create less spillage? who will manage the fire pit usage during the times when, particularly during the no fire burning warnings in Riley County. Everyone who lives on Wildcat Creek Road has a dream. But this design is not our dream. Carol?
Okay. What I would direct your attention to, in addition to the issue about cabins, is on page 9 of the Replat and Development Plan Amendment. The Kansas Supreme Court decided in a different land use study that there are factors that go into the decision to rezone a property appear to be more than the list of concerns stated here in this plat. Certain criteria must also be examined, so I ask that you consider the questions and that you also have answers to those questions to those of us who reside on Wildcat Creek Road. Is the rezoning compatible with the character of the neighborhood? The answer is no. This is a rural residential pasture farming grassland woodlands not commercially developed. Residents are known to walk or ride horseback every day along the road. The KSU track team runs on Wildcat Creek Road. Bicyclists enjoy the road, and the residents, we walk along the road, which has become increasingly unsafe with the current amount of increased traffic. Question 2, is the rezoning compatible with the zoning and uses of properties nearby? No, you just heard from Eddie Eastis and the comp plan for Riley County. This works in contradiction to that. Number 3, will removal of the current restrictions by rezoning detrimentally affect nearby property? Yes. The cabins are 450 feet from our northern line, and if you look at that, we're the 90-degree turn right next to the winery driveway. That is a funnel. And the sound from visitors and guests after 11 o'clock at night will funnel right down into our backyard and into our home. And sound carries. And so there is no plan to mitigate that sound, and that riparian barrier is not sufficient to attenuate the sound. Question number 4, will the gain to the public health, safety, and welfare by denying rezoning not be as great as the hardship imposed upon the individual landowner? The beneficiaries of this plan, of course, are the Tegmeyers. The rest of us have no benefit to it. Denying the rezoning provides greater safety to those who live on Wildcat Creek Road by reducing traffic, creating more stable maintenance and safety along the gravel road, and providing for the timely arrival of emergency services. I will say traffic study in this light. Everyone has been talking about people leaving an event. Nobody has talked about 1,200 to 1,500 cars coming bumper to bumper off of Scenic Drive to an event, because you've all been to an outdoor concert, and they don't all go zippity right up to the parking lot. There will be a line of traffic which imposes enormous emergency service issues for us. So last but not least, within the plan are 2 letters of support. And in talking with my neighbors, one of these is from the Kansas Tourism Director and one from Manhattan Convention and Visitors Bureau. And the question among our residents who are unable to be here this evening is this: why should the voices of these entities be louder and stronger than those of us who live on Wildcat Creek Road and who will garner no benefits and who will assume all of the risks involved with this plan?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Are there any other opponents?
I'm Leonard Kotzer, 3131 Wildcat Creek Road, located right below Saddle Rock. In 1993, I came to the university to finish my degree and fell in love with the area. Located, after many, many months, a piece of property to buy. What I bought was an old A-frame made out of timbers from a train depot in Wichita, and it's in sad shape. We tore that down, eventually built a new house, and we've been there for 25 years. The peace and quiet, I'm a nature kind of person. We feed birds and take care of other animals and things, but I hate to see what was a dream of being in the country and retiring be kind of hurt by traffic on Wildcat Creek Road. everybody's talked about the traffic from Wildcat to Scenic. What you fail to realize, the gravel road runs south to Eureka. There's no doubt in my mind that if traffic is backed up to head to Scenic, they're going to make a turn and they're going to head south along that gravel road. That road now creates so much dust, so many cars, it's getting kind of unrecognizable to what it was when we first came. So consider that the people who live along the south part of Wildcat will be impacted by the traffic also. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Ryan Kegley. I live at 1403 Wildcat Creek Road, so next to the Adams and just a couple of doors down from the winery.
Mrs. Sheffield said she was speaking for everyone else.
Yeah, it's not even 9 o'clock.
Madam Chairperson, it's your responsibility to listen to everybody. All of these people are property tax owners. Your responsibility is to listen and make a decision. That's your responsibility.
We know that, and we take it very seriously. Sir, would you like to come to the podium?
I will.
State your name now if you want to address me.
He will have to consent to that because he has the podium. Robert.
Please. Please.
So you are welcome to come up right now, and I will take my turn after you.
Madam Chairperson.
Yes.
Fellow Commissioners, my name is Calvin Emick, and I live at 3010 Prairie Star Drive. Excuse me for my outburst, but I've been at several City Commission meetings and Raleigh County Commission meetings, and I've never had a treatment like this commission and you, ma'am, have expressed to these people.
Well, sir, we'll talk about this afterwards, because I went through this very same thing a few years ago, and this is the way it was. So we'll talk about that later. Sir, do you have a statement that you want to make?
Yes, I do. Your position is to make an ultimate decision about this application. And my opinion, this is my opinion, this is a very aggressive PUD application, and it will have a very significant impact upon the traffic on Scenic Drive. I would venture to say that there will be numerous serious accidents from those people that either will be attending or leaving that event because of the heavy volume of traffic on Scenic Drive and 1,200 to 1,500 cars leaving that event at a certain period of time, whether that be at 11 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evening. That in itself leaves a big burden upon your decision tonight. That could very well be the next big traffic area and accident area. There are several of those in town and several of those in the county. That could create a very serious problem for those people. For their patrons, somebody will have to take the burden of those accidents and those people getting hurt. So your responsibility is to weigh that versus approving something that, in my opinion, does not belong on a gravel road, that's two-lane gravel road. And there's no immediate plan for an asphalt overlay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm still Ryan Kegley. I still live at 1403 Wildcat Creek Road. I actually want to take a step back. There's a lot of comments about the amphitheater, I think, probably understandably, and I share all my concerns about the noise and the traffic and so on and so forth. What I wanted to actually do is step back and look at page 3 of the details of the development plan, where it lists all of these things that seem to be predetermined as list of permitted uses, which makes it seem like an outdoor amphitheater is a rubber stamp list of permitted uses. That's not actually true. That's up to, I suppose, you guys to decide. But number 2 is agritourism is defined by Article 9 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. Agritourism, and this gentleman, Bob, I think he read part of this, but I'd just like to come back to it. Activities conducted on and accessory to a working farm, ranch, vineyard, or other agricultural operation conducted for the enjoyment and or education of visitors, guests, or clients to view or enjoy rural, farming, or ranching activities and or historic, cultural, or natural attractions. The winery is obviously a winery. They have a number of vineyards, grapes growing, and the activity they generally have there now, I would say, is supportive of that activity. I would argue that the activity that would occur as part of this expanded PUD would have very little to do with the fact that this is a working winery and the people coming there are meant to be enjoying it as such. The last thing I'll say is, because this resides up on a hillside, the people that are going to be in these RVs and the cabins and the event center and everything else, they're going to have these spectacular views. The rest of us, that's going to be our view when we're hiking the other trails and lands on our own properties around there. And that's certainly not a small campus or neighborhood built on top of a hill on a very rural stretch of road. Does not seem like my idea of rural. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents?
Good evening. I'm Cale Katzenmeyer. I live at...
Speak into the microphone, please.
I'm Cale Katzenmeyer. I live at 1083 Wildcat Creek Road for almost 25 years. And I remember when we were the new kids. I didn't realize, like has been expressed, that we would only have 3 minutes, and I don't have any way to condense my comments into 3 minutes. So I'm going to abandon them and just kind of speak from what I can do best, is from my heart, from my spirit, and from my mind on what I want to be first clear to state is nothing against Danny and Dave. We have nothing but admiration for them. In fact, we run a little business on the same road, and we commonly and frequently refer people to them. So this is about what is the right decision for this board to make in recommending this or not recommending it. Instead of reading through all my points, because one of them is traffic and one of them is life safety and one of them is environmental impact concerns and one of them is noise concerns, and one of them is precedent and one of them is compatibility character with the neighborhood, and another one is uses of the properties nearby, and another one is how do they detrimentally affect other property. And I would argue on that note that detrimental effects just to property values. There's several neighbors here that I can tell you I would not purchase their home if this is what's going on. But I also want to step back. The complexity of this is so much. I was sitting here trying to empathize with each of you as a board, and I don't know how much you've had time to study this. Unfortunately, we just are trying to get up to speed since Friday last week, so I've been spending the weekend trying to understand it myself. There is so much in here. And I will tell you, there's so many inconsistencies, there's a lot of contradictions, and there's a lot of holes where we're basing final binding permanent decisions that are being predicated on assumptions. But we don't have time tonight to, adjudicate that and go through all that, nor would I try. I would just encourage each of you to realize that we have spent a lot of time with this. I have talked to other experts, some in this room, some outside this room, who feel like a lot of what's being presented is flawed at best. And that's not to point fingers or blame. It's just to say and encourage you there's a lot here. And it really needs time to be figured out and pulled apart. Amongst others that I can speak to, number one would be precedent. My wife and I, 20 years ago, moved out to the country with a dream, and that dream evolved into having a little retreat center called Prairiewood. And It's a very small boutique. In fact, we've built no other new structures. We just used what was there originally, and we believe in restoring and not building and not developing. We just want to use what's there. But I can tell you, there's a problem with precedent here that needs to be considered. If they get to have a second event center, and they get to have a restaurant, and they get to have 16 cabins, and they get to have a 3,000-person amphitheater, when I show up on the same road with more property and request the same thing, if this has been approved, there's going to be a real problem denying our request with equitable precedent. And I don't think anyone tonight can just in quick common sense think that 4 event centers belong in the same stretch that everyone's already talking about, that 2 restaurants, that multiple cabins. I think everyone would have to say, wait, somewhere in there is a line we've crossed. If this got approved as it is, that line wouldn't be considered.
Okay, time's up. I'm sorry.
Can we give him our 3 minutes? We're at 1243 Wildcat Creek Road.
Bob? Okay.
Thank you. The other piece of this that I think needs to be considered is just really very plain common sense that goes back to the traffic, but from an even different perspective. We live 1 mile down on the road. I did figure that based on the planning board's own report and the traffic survey's own report, that it would be a level F intersection getting out, which everyone can picture that intersection of pulling onto Scenic Drive and Wildcat Creek Road. It's a level F, which is like a failing grade. 1.5 minutes you're waiting, but 1.5 minutes times 1,200 cars, which would be backed up past our house, backed up past our business, but as was also mentioned, it would also mean the inflow of that. On days where that inflow is happening in our little business, we wouldn't have any customers. No one would come and shop our little gallery because they'd have 1,200 cars taking 2 or 3 hours to get in. That is detrimental just at face value. But more life safety is when I think about the traffic, which admittedly has not been figured out, and I think about trying to turn left to get out to go somewhere, or right, depending on whether people are coming in or not, to get into town. If I or one of my kids had an emergency, or myself or my wife, pulling out into that stream, there's no mitigation for what would happen with those backed up cars. It's a 2-lane road, it's without shoulders, it's curvy. And until things like that are answered, we can't approve something that would put that kind of risk and burden on the community. And so it quickly reaches the bar of, yes, the public health would be more damaged than the damage to them not being able to do what they're doing. I don't think every element of this application is wrong or bad. I think it is premature to present it as a proposal when there's so many things that need to be studied further and understood further. My last question would be this. When it says that the traffic study can't determine event and build infrastructure to determine safe travel for that many people, whether it's 200 or 400, 800 people leaving an event or 3,000. My question is then why not build a 5,000 seat amphitheater? Why not have 50 cabins instead of just 12? Why not have 5,000 amphitheater instead of just 3,000? And if we can't answer that question of why 3,000 is okay but 5,000 isn't, based on whatever empirical evidence has been studied and presented and is trusted, we can't approve something until those answers are available. And so my job tonight is not to answer those questions. It's to present questions that I believe have not been answered and ask you to please make sure we get answers before this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Are there any other opponents? Your name?
Rebecca Katzenmeyer. I'm in the microphone. And
address?
1083 Wildcat Creek Road. And I'll be pretty quick. Kale's my husband. We are the owners of Prairie Wood. And I want to reiterate that I am completely for Dave and Danny as people, as neighbors. And I've been here on the other side of the coin. And this was like 10 years ago. And it was a really difficult thing. And I learned later that what everyone was worried about at that meeting was that this beautiful neighborhood we have would be developed. And because we own a company called Capstone 3D Development Company. So there was some misunderstanding about what we wanted to do with the space to be congruent with the neighborhood that we're in. we have to think about impact. These ideas are fabulous. They're fabulous at a state park. They're fabulous where there's infrastructure. They're fabulous when there are things that can care for the people who are there. And all the things, I know I missed a lot of this, but everything Cale just said is genuinely true. What is already happening on Wildcat Creek Road between what we do and what they do, that is enough as far as cars. There's a lot of dust that we all have to experience, plus just the neighbors. And I just can't imagine that the extent of how gigantic this is can be solved in a way that is safe. And that's a huge thing for you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, are there any proponents? If not, Mr. and Mrs. Tegmeyer, do you have anything that you would like to add or clarify?
There's lots of details, I guess, which I'd like to explain more. I guess I see things differently. The amphitheater, I'll start with that, I guess. The amphitheater was originally an idea that came into fruition to try to do more good for our area and our community that we love and we call home. When I lost my sight a few years ago and regained it, I wanted to be able to give back. The original plan with this amphitheater was to be able to host events for churches, for nonprofits, also events for us to make it viable. But the real goal was to do more good with our facility, with what we've created out there, to show people what the Flint Hills looks like, what Kansas looks like. It's the biggest thing that has amazed us over the years is when people come out from the cities or anywhere, people that live in Manhattan, and they come out to our place and they look over the Flint Hills and they say, we didn't know Kansas looked like this. This is beautiful. That makes it worth it, that people can come out, sit on our patios, enjoy what we've created from the land, and look at the views they didn't know were here in Kansas. Agritourism, by definition, is getting people to understand agriculture better. Getting people to come out and drink wine is one aspect of that. You can only get so many people to go on vineyard tours and try to educate them on vines. An amphitheater allows people to go and enjoy somebody that they enjoy music from, or go to an event and see. We're designing the amphitheater in a way that you'll be able to see that view. You'll be able to enjoy it, that setting. That builds a connection with people and the land and agriculture at the same time. That's what's needed for agritourism. That's what the state wants for agritourism. That's what's needed for agritourism to help protect agriculture in this state. I grew up in a farming family. I'm a 7th generation Kansan on my family's farm. I understand that farming seems to be dying in Kansas because people don't understand what it is anymore. They're detached from it. They're detached from agriculture. And the Flint Hills are no different. People drive through and they might see what's on I-70, but they don't actually stop and look around and actually experience and enjoy it. They do that at our place. And this allows for a draw of more people to those events to actually have an experience that can change how they view the Flint Hills, view Kansas, and view agriculture. The cabins, the location of those was to keep it away from Fort Riley. There's not very many locations that we could do with that. And we're designing those cabins, they're not the cabins down at the lake that anybody goes to party. We're designing these as small, quaint, luxury cabins. The goal with those is to actually market to people in the larger cities, in Kansas City and Wichita, as couples retreats to get away and experience something they didn't even know was here. There's a major push for staycations in Kansas, and the Flint Hills has just that. There's just not enough places to go do that. You can go stay in a hotel, but that's just another hotel. When you wake up in a little cabin with a view as the sun comes up and have your coffee, that's different. We wanted to be able to provide that and provide that experience for people. The event center, it's a needed thing for the area. We have so many weddings that we have to turn away that are smaller sizes, so many corporate and smaller groups. That one's on the long-term plan. In the RVs, the idea behind that was to allow people that are passing through on I-70 to actually stop and come in and enjoy the area. There's a major following, sorry, my glasses keep falling up here. There's a major following on around the country. What's the app called, Danielle?
Not even me on the spot.
There's a major following, Harvest Toast, of people, mainly retirees who travel the country, going and staying at wineries. And they use this to go around to wineries and basically have experiences around the country. That was our goal with the RV. We're not trying to have people come out and get crazy in RVs. That's not the goal with that. This is people that are coming through as a destination to come experience and see what we've built. In Kansas, the last place people thought they'd find a winery with a view like that. I know all this is a lot to swallow. It's not all planned to be done at once. And it's all things that truly are needed additions to the area, and to our facilities to do what we need to do. The amphitheaters with the traffic, the 3,000 seems like a big number, but that's the allowable capacity. Most events won't be that big. I guess we would hope for big events, but that's not the case. We're not going to have events all the time because Mother Nature limits how many events we can have on our own. There's so many things going on during the summer that you can't have an event all the time. The traffic coming and going on the roadways, that number, if you add up the rough number of guests that we may have on a single weekend for weddings and our tasting room, it's near that number already for people at our facility. So the current traffic would not be much different than the event traffic. It would just be at a larger influx and a larger leaving, which I believe could be mediated with proper traffic mediation measures with possibly Riley County Police Department. There's lots of things that can be implemented to solve these problems that have been brought up. Is there any more questions from me, I guess, that I might be able to answer? Am I allowed to do that? I don't want to waste any more time.
No,
Sorry.
that's what I was going to ask, if the board has any questions of David, of anything. I have one. I mean, the traffic seems to be a big concern to everyone, except,
Yeah.
Is there any thought as to having two roads in and out of your facility? Is there an option for a second road somewhere that, I know that it all goes on either to Eureka or on Wildcat, Wildcat going around. But just the fact of having two roads coming in or two roads going in.
That would help solve on our property, I guess,
Right.
but it would still end up on Wildcat
It's
Creek.
all still going to be on those two roads,
Yep.
yes.
I
but-
think the alleviation issue that most people are bringing up is the intersection of Wildcat and Scenic.
And Scenic.
That there would need to be some traffic measures taken there.
Right, yes.
To help. And
And I think the report alluded to that it would have to
Yeah.
have the police.
And I would agree that there does need to be, because even now, it's tough to get onto that roadway if during rush hour traffic and stuff during the day.
Okay.
That's a problem that's already there, so.
Okay.
During our events, we don't want our patrons waiting. I'm not sure what the estimations were, they seemed quite high, but for hours, that's not acceptable. So we would have to do something to where people aren't waiting for hours to move a mile. We're not in New York City here. We shouldn't do that, so.
Your timeline for the amphitheater was like 2025, or what is it?
This year, 2022?
Yes, I would like to start construction of the amphitheater this year, if possible. We won't have, I was hopeful to have our first event this year. That's not realistic. Mainly, we would get it built and then get it, because a lot of it's grass. I call it an earthen amphitheater. This isn't a big concrete, not with the seats like the K-State Stadium. This will be made from limestone blocks quarried nearby, and then grass terraces, in tiered terraces. It'll look natural to the environment.
The concern that I have is the dust issue. I mean, that's a lot of cars back to back to back, just stirring up dust. And until that road would be paved, I'd have a serious issue with that.
Yeah.
They said that now that the county puts the chemicals on the road, does that help with the dust issue?
It does. It does considerably, because if you drive to my house past the winery, there's a big difference between where the mag chloride is on the road and where it's not. Our house is very, very dusty. Our screens are constantly dirty. There's dust everywhere at our house because our house does not get the magnesium chloride treatment. There is some dust, yes. It depends on humidity in the air, but it is an effective measure currently to decrease dust. It does not eliminate all dust.
Right.
Magnesium chloride acts by gathering the moisture out of the air. So it depends on humidity how effective it is. On the really, really dry days, it is not as effective. Paving would be the ultimate solution for widening the road with everything. Along the creek side, putting up guardrails, all that kind of stuff. Would be the ultimate.
I guess I have wrote down a couple questions, or a question, I guess. Storm shelters, somebody brought up storm shelters.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably come to your mind occasionally, or thoughts.
Yep.
What are you planning? Would you plan, if this was put into effect, would you have some type of storm shelters for your customers?
Yep, so I do have a storm shelter. It'd actually be close to the second event center location that people could use, that we could turn into a fully usable storm shelter. Currently at our event center, our building is a very strong steel frame structure. The company that designed it said it is guaranteed and rated for, I think, 150 mile an hour winds. I know a tornado can be more than that, of course. Our building is also designed with, it's a larger footprint building, so the interior space has a very strong main firewall, double-sided firewall, which is where the restrooms are and the catering kitchen. So that acts as our storm shelter since it's in the interior part of the building, and it's the strongest supporting wall structurally of the entire space. For the event center side and our tasting room, that's what we've always used. For the amphitheater, by nature, the amphitheater itself will be in one of the lowest lying areas. The stage will actually be at the bottom of a very deep draw. Way down below, there'll be hillsides. The winery is actually, I think, 85 or 90 feet elevation higher than the actual stage will be. So it's down there quite a ways. It's backed by a complete cedar tree covered hillside with 80 to 100 foot tall 75-year-old cedar trees that are in that draw. That'll act as a sound buffer. It then goes up to another steep hillside on the other side. That in itself provides a natural bowl. I know it's not a complete storm shelter, but if there ever was an event, everybody would get down to the stage area, which is the lowest point. I know tornadoes don't always do that, but in general, tornadoes tend to, because they don't actually have the capacity to drop down that quickly, they tend to skip over high points and not actually ride down into low points, and it's that dramatic of a change. So it would offer some protection. When we would build a actual permanent stage down the road, I did not say I wanted to do that right away because I don't know what would be needed as far as sound, structure-wise. I want to actually host some events and see what is needed first before we build a permanent stage. I don't want to do it wrong. In doing that, the plan was to actually build an area underneath the stage that would have both what they call a green room, which would be for the people to get ready, and potentially restrooms down there as well. So that would act as a storm shelter then.
So comment was made earlier on about the amphitheater, and you kind of alluded, but somebody made the comment that several days of concerts and loud music and stuff, and you alluded a little bit ago that it was a more lower keyed, type of concerts and stuff that you would have, correct?
Yeah, we're not going to be having AC/DC or anything out there. That's not the style we're looking at. It's not a big enough venue. The size was really immediate. I think somebody asked about the size and why we decided on that size. That was what was told to me as a big enough size to where we can actually attract people from afar, because we're able to get people that are big enough to pull from afar versus little local bands. With that size, it's also the size that is limited by that bowl. It's not big enough. That actual natural, to design it the way I want to, as an earthen terraced with grass, a comfortable amphitheater, it couldn't be any larger than that, which there's no need. If we wanted to actually have a big amphitheater like the ones in Kansas City, those are 20,000, 30,000 people. At those Red Rocks, I think out in Boulder is 10,000. So we're quite small in comparison to those, but it's big enough that it allows us to actually get people, big enough acts that people would come from afar to come to it, which was the main goal.
Were you looking at multiple day events or just single day events?
Single day events. The only multiple day events would probably be philanthropical in nature. We also want to use this to give back. So church events that we'd let use it, that would be donations from other area businesses could help host those events. What really started it, I think I began to say this earlier and got sidetracked. We work a lot with Envision Group out of Wichita, which is a company, it's one of the largest in the country, that helps the visually impaired and blind find jobs and find purpose in the world. We would do a lot of events directly for them, and the goal with this, my dream with it, was to host an annual event that may be multiple days, to where we could have it be free to anybody visually impaired in the country. I know it's a very difficult thing to imagine. We'd have to have a lot of help to make it actually a reality. But that was the initial thought that made me want to create this, was how neat would that be to be able to give back to all the people in the world that aren't as blessed as I am to get sight back, and in a way that they can come together, enjoy music, which I always loved music, but when I lost my sight, music became my world. And to give them that opportunity to meet other people at an event like that from across the country, that's what I really want to do, and that would be a multi-day event, and similar ones like that. As far as concerts, we're not going to have Country Stampede. It's not a large enough event, or not a large enough space for anything like that. And we don't have enough flat ground. Our flat ground will be the parking lot. So we can't have big, all the stuff that goes along with Stampede. We're on the hillsides, so.
One other thing that was brought up, and I'm just going to clarify this so it gets out there. There was quite a few times this evening, it's been talked about like 1,200 vehicles per event up there, and your parking spot's only got 500 stalls. So is that false information that there's going to be 1,200 cars there at a time? Or is that just 500 new parking spots?
I think that was additional to our existing.
And so what is your existing parking lot?
You can probably see it on the PUD. I'm not sure how to.
Oh, okay. It says, yeah, okay, but it doesn't give an
It's
actual.
about the size of what would be of the 500.
So you could be 1,000 cars then, okay.
Yeah, and we can make it larger than 500. We obviously don't want to not have enough spaces.
Okay.
So that's not a problem.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Our parking lot's so large now because
existing and future
it was
within the realm of
we didn't have organized parking. previously, and so we made it larger so that people could find enough space. So it wasn't very well-used space in the parking lot before.
So and I'm just, I guess I'm going back and thinking about the drainage and stuff. Them parking lots are all, will that, the new one, would it be gravel as well? Or are you planning on putting concrete slabs up there for all these vehicles?
No, it would be gravel or grass.
Okay.
Was the plan, because again, these are only a few events a year.
Yeah.
As long as the grass, mowed grass would hold up in that area, we would maintain it that way. As soon as it didn't, then we would put it to gravel.
But you have no plans on putting concrete up there for a
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, all right.
Do you have plans of paving your drive going up, or will it stay gravel?
Once the road is paved, we'd be looking at that, yes.
Anyone else have any questions?
So I know how many events are you going to have a year? It seemed like people were mentioning a discrepancy in the number of events.
We gave a rough estimate, I guess, to the county of what we thought realistically we would have. We're not really sure, and I guess describe an event, because some of our weddings may want to use this space for their wedding. We may have some churches that are 100 people that want to have a small event there. And then we'll have music events, we'll have other fundraiser events, which, well, I guess what is, we may have smaller use of it on certain days. As far as actual music events, we were planning on that around, I think, 8 to 10 or something. And that's realistically all I think we'd be able to manage. There's only so many days during the good time of the year here in Kansas when you can do those kinds of events, so.
You've been hosting events there now, weddings and so forth?
Yes, yep, for.
Haven't caused any major traffic issues?
No, nope, and if we get on our busy weekends, if you add it up over the course of the weekend, our traffic over the weekend would be between 1,500 and 1,800 people potentially to our location. And so.
And how many vehicles is that?
Will be spread over multiple days.
Well, but still, how many people, how many vehicles?
I don't know. How many people do you add to a vehicle? I don't know what the number is. They fit in our parking lot, so.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that, if they tend to come in 4s instead of 2s, or.
You never know.
Didn't know for sure.
Varied. I would say probably on average 2 or 3 people per vehicle on average would be a good estimate, but.
I know that there's some discrepancies between the report and the drawings and stuff, which is not anyone in the planning offices or our fault and stuff, but are there 16 cabins or are there 12 cabins?
12, that was just a mistake on the drawing.
Okay.
Yep. I think that's to be corrected, it just wasn't done in time on the Mylar.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Can I ask a question if it happens to be a Bob question versus his question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure he might answer. I have a couple questions. Would it be within the realm of the Planning Commission's purview to limit the number of events in the amphitheater a year? Is that even done? I'm new to the commission, so I'm just going to ask some questions that may or may not be. I know like special use permits, sometimes you can do that, but is it just not part of the PUD?
Typically, we don't get into that unless we can provide reasons why that would need to happen. If we look through the list, is it traffic? Is one of it to, as far as life safety, if it can be proven something like that is a problem as far as life safety, 1, 8, 10, they're all a problem. If traffic can be managed back onto the site and two different directions on Wildcat Creek Road, and if necessary, we have law enforcement helping out and dispersing traffic and controlling that at certain times of the evening, let's just say. And if that can if that can happen successfully and safely, then again, what are we using to say no to? The noise. If the noise can be managed, as they're proposing, it's no different than what it is now. So I'm not sure if you want to go into it's more or less my opinion. It comes down to a business decision, what hours of operation that we're going to force a business to have, based on what. So.
I was going to say, the good thing about, I mean, they haven't asked for the sound decibels to be raised at all.
The quiet hours.
And then they've got those quiet hours.
Clarify that one. The quiet hours apply to the entire site, not just to the winery.
Okay.
And I believe there's another one in there. It does look like a inconsistency or contradiction. But originally, when this was brought before the board in 2014, the focus was on the events occurring inside the building. So that there was suggestions and that there should be some sort of insulation and noise mitigation construction methods used in the building, or any building that's constructed that would have amplified sound in it. So yes, that occurred. But if you notice, there's also, it says indoor or outdoor. So regardless of how the noise is generated, whether it's indoors or outdoors, the standards is still the same. It's 65 dB at the property line, any property line. That has to be maintained. So, and of course, yeah, there's always that, well, what if it isn't? Yeah, well, it's kind of, it comes down to anything dealing with zoning. If there's a violation, there's a violation. And then we go through the zoning enforcement and the violation process with the applicant at that time, as we would with anyone. Not sure if that helps.
No, that answers it. And my next question might be for you too, I don't know. What I've seen in the past, when a county has a sales tax that is for a certain road, that project is approved up front before the voters vote on it. Is that true?
It's already been approved.
So it definitely will.
Yes, it's a definite. It's not a if, it's a when.
And it's the geometric improvements been designed that might make it safer, not designed, but at least stated.
Yeah, they're not going to take out every single curve, but they're going to try to flatten out some of the sharper curves and the blind curves, that kind of thing, and try to make it a little bit safer. Okay. And that's all the part of the projects. You know, ask any engineer that designs this. They don't want to put something out there that is spend that kind of money for, only to be not really an improvement at all. So the pavement again is going to go to a certain point and stop. I want to backtrack too, as far as the dust control treatment. It is the policy of the county that if it's found that the current dust control method, or I should say schedule, is not working because of additional traffic, and then there's more application dates that are put into place there. It's not just once or twice a year, and that's tough no matter what. Now, if there's an increase in traffic, whether it be Prairie Wood or just a convenient route to get down to Eureka from that, and whatever which way, it is a public road, and people have the right to use it as such. And with that, if it was found that another application of mag chloride would be necessary, that would happen. And they have to time that out too, because the application at certain times of year in certain situations can create a problem. But that's also something that Public Works has shared with us. That's something they would take care of as part of their responsibility of taking care of the road.
Okay. Mr. Tegmeyer, I might ask you to, how is it with, I know Prairie Wood's a church and that the times that their activities probably are different than what would be at the winery, but has there ever been traffic problems with, the amount of people that they would have there versus of what's going on at your facility? I mean, any problems on the road with traffic?
No, I don't believe there's ever been any problems. When the weddings let out or when events, we have events at our event center that aren't weddings, also indoors. And we've never had traffic problems because of that. And those will be 300 people plus in the weddings as well.
Okay.
All leaving at once, so. And that's our parking lot will be full, so 400 or 500 cars, potentially.
And how long does it take those 400 or 500 cars to get out?
To leave our place as quick as they want.
Well, no, I know, but have you ever, oh, they're still sitting there, there's 300 cars still in the parking lot. They're just waiting to get out.
Oh.
I mean, does it seem to be a long time in the traffic getting out?
Yeah, and, well, it depends. Events like comedy night, things like that, I think people leave sooner, and it'll clear out in 20 minutes or so, and there hasn't been problems with that. Weddings, I would think, is a more gradual release of people, just by the nature of the events.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Tegmeyer? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all for your time tonight.
You bet, thank you.
Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll make that
So we-
motion.
I'll second it.
So we go into deliberative mode.
Can I start out?
You can start out, John.
So as it was brought up tonight, I've been on this board for 10 years. That was the night that the Katzmeyers came and wanted to make an event center out of Prairiewood. We were here until 1:30 in the morning. And I don't plan on being there tonight because I got a big day tomorrow. But 10 years ago, my biggest beef with the whole thing of having a event center out there was the road. And then all of a sudden, oh, the county's going to take this road over now from the township and they're going to take care of it. Well, the road's still the same road that it is today. I've drove out on that road on occasion. I've drove it from Scenic and I've drove it there to Eureka. And I'll still say the road hasn't changed until the county makes a big, vast improvement with the east, I'm going to say the east proportion out to Scenic. It's still going to be the same road. So traffic is always going to be a problem. I live on a county gravel road in the north end of the county. I know when there's certain things going on. I have dust that comes in and gets in my house too. As it's been mentioned tonight, that it is a rural community and that people like that setting, and I would have to agree with them. Is this the best thing for the community? I don't know, but as it was mentioned tonight by Mr. Katzmeyer, if we approve this, if he wants to do something down the road, then, we're at the mercy to have to do something then. There's a lot of reading here.
There's a lot of reading.
And I didn't get over all of it twice to just go back and completely reread it, but there are segments of this plan that I like. There's some of it that I'm on the fence about, and then there's some that I'm dead set against. I'm okay with doing the approval for the houses set, because that's a separate situation this evening. as far as what happens up on top of the hill, the only thing that I really like the best would be, and I've never been there for an event, but I can see a restaurant type deal. I mean, wouldn't be different than a Colt golf course, you know,
Yeah.
having a restaurant out there. You know, I guess I'd have a hard time with, you know, being a neighbor out there. I'd probably be screaming and hollering too. So that's kind of where I'm standing with my thoughts for this evening. So, you know, do they need places to live? Personally, yes.
Yeah.
The rest of what's on top of the hill, I can, you know, like I said, the restaurant inside the winery, I can see that. I have no problem with that part of it. There's always going to be, you know, the traffic deal is always going to just be the big issue, so. And I don't like it. Never have.
And that's-
I didn't like it 10 years ago.
That's why we didn't approve Prairie Wood.
That's
just
right.
because of the traffic.
That's right. Then they become a church.
Yes.
So, you know, so they got around some way.
Yeah.
Loophole. But anyhow, that's besides the point, so I'll shut up and move on down the line to the other 3, 4.
Okay. Anyone else there?
I'd have to agree with you, John. I think the road is the big issue. And the big issue with the road is the amphitheater. I don't see the cabins or the RV parking or the smaller event center as having big impacts. It's the amphitheater. It's just, if you pull in 3,000 people, 1,000 cars, 1,200 cars on that small road, gravel road, until something's done with that road to accommodate the amount of traffic that could be on it. I don't know how many times a year, but I mean, we're not going to put a limit on that. I have a problem with the amphitheater. The rest of it, I'm not seeing any particular problems. I had a couple of questions that will be solved. I'm not so sure how you're going to do the emergency management control of the wildfire stuff. I'd be curious as to how that's going to happen.
Yeah, this year, yeah.
Yeah. Been doing it for almost 40 years now, so, yeah. But the amphitheater is the problem I have. Yeah.
Okay. Nathan?
I kind of agree. I mean, 12 cabins, you're probably looking at 12 cars. The event, he's had weddings out there with 400 cars. They probably don't all leave at once. Probably not a problem. It's the amphitheater. If you got 1,200 cars leaving all at once, that's going to be a problem on that road. I'd like to see him wait on that until it's asphalted, and even then, getting them out of there might be.
See, and that was the thing that they wanted to do first,
That's what
wasn't
they
it?
wanted to do first, but that's, to me, until that road is blacktopped, would be, I wouldn't want to live there with 1,200 cars going by, one after another, just bringing dust. That, to me,
I wouldn't want to live there, period, with 1,200 cars going by.
well, at least when it's asphalt, there would be no dust
Well,
coming.
but still, it's a lot of
But,
heat, so, yeah.
personally, I like the idea of it all. I would love to see this in our area, in our community. It gives a reason for people to come here.
Mhm. And that's what we need. I mean,
we do this.
We need
to
that.
me, I think it's a wonderful idea. It's the traffic and the dust and getting out on the scenic drive that, to me, is a concern. Whether that's ours to deal with, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really love to come to a concert out there, and I know other areas where the county rules wouldn't even let you think about it without having a paved road. So that, it's, you know, concerning that it's not paved and that the geometric improvements would make it safer. I think at Scenic Drive, I mean, I don't know how many of you have been at Bill Snyder Stadium and you had to go right and you really wanted to go left and you had to drive around town and go home. I mean, you could shove everybody on Scenic Drive and make them go right and get on Fort Riley Boulevard and find their way home. I mean, I don't think that doesn't bother me as much getting out on Scenic Drive, because I've had to take the long way home many times because I went out the wrong entrance. But I think that not having the paved road and not knowing, I mean, you're saying 8 to 10 events a year, but it could be 365 events, probably not, but there's not really a limit on that, which the neighbors probably would appreciate knowing if it's 8 events or 80 events. I know I came from Lewisburg, Kansas, and there was a big, like, 3-day event down at a camp down in Lynn Valley, and the people basically paid for all the neighbors to go away during the events, in theory. That's, they like rented out their houses for Airbnbs, and they're like, here's how much you get if you'd like to go away, and they all decided they all wanted to go on vacation, but you can't do that all throughout the year, and I don't think you're gonna have that kind of venue. That's not really your vibe that you're going with, so, but, yeah, the traffic's the main thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, the traffic it was the thing 10 years ago, and it still hasn't changed any.
And I don't know if there's any business plan that, you know, a 1,500-seat amphitheater would sell, or any other choices that might be less cars. I don't know what the payback is on your amphitheater.
Bob, sorry. I was going to say, and the Tegmeyers, I don't know, maybe work with them, and would you consider postponing the amphitheater? I mean, I know that you wanted to do it this year, but would you consider doing it on down the road to give a chance for that road to get paved and? Yeah. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yes, yeah, we would, I believe. The road being paved would be a benefit to it. I know having the amphitheater would necessitate the road being paved also. And one other, you mentioned people turning right at Scenic Drive. I don't know how it works, but would Raleigh County Police Department, they do it for K-State and other major events, helping to direct traffic. Is that something that can be looked at potentially for our few larger events?
I would think that they would be jumping at something like that to avoid people
Yeah.
having accidents.
We want everybody to be safe as well.
They charge for that.
Yeah.
But yes, short
So-
answer, yes.
So Bob, would it be best for us to table this and come back and visit it, or to what?
Well, you definitely have options. From what I'm hearing is the amphitheater, everyone on the board is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is okay with everything being presented as far as amendment, except for the amphitheater.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, John didn't say.
I just said the restaurant.
He said the restaurant.
That was the only thing that I liked on the, it was the restaurant, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the thing that you didn't like, besides the amphitheater? Was there something else?
Well, I mean, I guess the cottages are only 12 vehicles, I guess, so, but there was a lot of mention, or some mention, about noise, and so does the to clarify, so the cabins would have the same time, the noise as the rest of the venue, is that correct?
Quiet hours.
Quiet hours?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So is the rest of the board okay with that part?
I am.
The question then, at that point, if you're okay with it, John?
I did.
Well, I'm asking, this is the time, are you good with the amendments? I mean, other than the amphitheater, are you good with the rest of it? The rest of it being the restaurant, the 12 cabins, not 16, the 12 pads for the RV parking, separated out from the rest of the parking lot. And of course, the small conference the small event center.
I'm on the fence on that. I can go either way, so.
Okay, well, what I'm getting at is this, the board can do one or two things.
I mean, we can vote how we want to vote when we get to that point, so. I guess you guys make an amendment to it, and then
If you
we'll
like it,
we'll see how the cards fall.
you like it or you don't like
We'll see how the
it.
cards fall.
And this is a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. This is not being rezoned, understand that?
Right.
This is just simply amending the development plan to the existing zoning district.
Because we got two deals on the table.
Yes.
The houses, the houses, and then the agritourism part.
Sure. All right, so that's, you can recommend, I think that there's, someone alluded to postponing through discussion with the applicant, postponing the event, or not the event, but the amphitheater to a date certain that is tied to the paving of Wildcat Creek Road.
Okay.
That's something to consider. So it at least elevates it. John Ellerman, the county engineer, was, I believe, supposed to be here tonight. I think he just simply forgot. But, and he would have been able to address whether there have been improvements made already to the Wildcat Creek Road from a township road to at least an unimproved county road. And he would probably argue there has been, not substantial improvements, but no. So again, it goes back to the board and their decision whether to postpone it or recommend that the other things are approved and this, everything is approved except for the amphitheater. So really, that's up to you guys.
I had one more question. Do you anticipate that you would have a large event and a small event going on at the same time?
No, the large events were planned more actually on Thursday nights during the week. And they would conclude either right around sunset or shortly after. These wouldn't be into the night country stampede events.
Okay.
I would just like to say that I really appreciate what you folks have done with that ugly hill out there. Remember how the cedars were growing all over it, John, and there was just a veil of rocks, and that, I mean, Kansas used to be a wine state, and it's going to take people like you to wake everybody up and let them know how good of a state it is for growing wine and stuff. And I mean, it's, I've been out there a few times. I don't drink wine, I'm sorry, but it's just amazing what you've done out there.
Thank you.
And
Taking a rock hill and put grapes on it.
yeah, it's.
It wasn't easy.
No.
I mean, it's a good impression of agriculture, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So,
Any other questions for me?
anybody? Okay. Well, folks,
I'd like to have a little discussion on how we would move to forward a recommendation to limit the amphitheater until after that road is moved. How would we write that?
I would say we'd have to make an amendment to the recommendation.
Yeah.
Stating that the amphitheater would not be built until.
Would not be considered until.
Well, yeah, be considered until the road was asphalted. I guess I'm just thinking about that'd be.
And then it would
It's gotta be an
probably
amendment.
come back at that time. then.
Would they have to come back at that time? So do we?
I think so. They have to come back.
You
No.
can just postpone it to a certain date, and then all of a sudden it's approved after the road is done. Is that what we're saying? That's what I thought I heard.
And it would not be.
It would not come back,
or
okay.
operational until the road has been paved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could it be written such that we actually remove that portion from the PUD? And then they'd have to come back
Yeah,
in 5 years or so
that's option B.
to put the amphitheater in?
I think that's option B, that it's specific
Oh, certain
amendments.
proposed amendments.
Yeah.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't read
that's your
those.
option B.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to come back and do the amphitheater.
Yeah, then that's where we list the specific.
Specific amendments.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, there you go. I guess I didn't look down there on that one, yeah.
Or we could possibly say all amendments except the amphitheater, because that would be shorter.
Yeah, could do that.
I'm all for shorter.
Yeah, yeah, okay. You go for it then.
Shall I make a motion? Are we
Yeah,
done with the-
I'm ready to do whatever you all want to do.
I'll give it a shot. I move to forward a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners of Riley County to approve all proposed amendments to the preliminary and final development plan except for the amphitheater.
Can I stop you right there? You
Yeah.
said preliminary
And final. Well,
and final,
yeah,
okay.
Development plan.
I didn't catch the word
Yeah.
final in there, okay.
I think I said it,
Okay.
except for the amphitheater amendment associated with the existing agribusiness planned unit development.
Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we forward to the Board of County Commissioners all the proposed amendments except the amphitheater to the preliminary and final development plans associated with the existing agribusiness plan unit development.
So we're actually removing that from,
We're removing
so we're
it.
not putting until the road's fixed, not giving a date on that.
What she's, well,
Reason I ask is
the
because
amend, what is the amendment?
You're amending the atmosphere. You're
Amending all the PUD requirements.
Right, I know, but what we're doing is we're removing that from there.
Right. It's, so
Totally.
Yeah, and they'd have to come
They'd
back.
have to come back.
Unless
Okay.
somebody else wants to make a motion
Okay.
to pave the road and automatically let it happen.
the reason I ask on that is because I live on McDowell Creek Road, and that road was supposed to be improved, and it was in the, I mean, they had the money to do it, and they pulled it out. I'd hate to see that happen
With that,
on this particular road, on Wildcat Creek Road. And so that's why I take it out totally.
it's taken out totally.
That was the
Okay,
motion
that's
I
what the motion
made.
is.
Yeah,
I didn't do the
Want to make
paved
sure
road.
that I understand what's happening.
Okay,
And then at some point, they'll have to come back to put the amphitheater in their plan.
back in. And I know that that's what they were trying to avoid having to do, is to come back again and stuff, but we want to try to make things work though, too. Okay? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Pose same sign.
Aye.
It carries 4-1. Okay. Bob, is there
Yes.
anything else we need to, the final plat?
Yes, we need to do the
Okay.
plat.
Send over the house.
So we're going to move to, how do we do this now? Because the final plat would have the
No.
Amphitheater.
No, this is separate.
This is the house.
This is completely
This is the
separate.
house, this is the house. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
All right, real quick.
Go ahead.
So you know, the plat's tied to the zoning, so the zoning has to be approved for the uses on that site for the plat. And I believe so, that's been done with the vote, the last vote.
Okay.
So you can go ahead with the final plat.
Right.
Okay.
And you have to make a finding whether or not it meets the subdivision regulations, in this case, the land development regulations,
And it does,
For the houses.
Yes.
for the lots.
the two
The two
lots.
lots.
Yep. For the platted portion.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we approve the final plot of the Tietmeyer Addition Unit 3, a replat of Tietmeyer Addition Unit 2, as it has been determined that it meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the final plat of the Tegmeyer Addition Unit 3 and replat Tegmeyer Addition Unit 2 as it's been determined that it meets the requirements of Riley County Land Development Regulation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, so, real quick. This request will be heard by the Board of County Commissioners on Thursday, May 26th, at 10:20 a.m. in these chambers. That's the official announcement. 10:20 a.m. Have to tell it.
I thank you all for coming tonight, and you're welcome to stay. We have some other business to do, or you're free to leave. And Stephanie, Mr. and Mrs. Tegmeyer, congratulations and good luck with the future plans here.
My coffee.
They don't want to stay.
No, nobody ever does.
You gotta stay.
I don't want to.
I gotta stay, you gotta stay. I was gonna go to the grocery store. I don't think that's happening.
I want to stop and visit.
I don't know what I'd say.
No, that's not happening.
Everything is right.
That's still not happening. They're closed.
Yeah,
Early anyway.
there was on Facebook, they closed at 8, I think. Yeah, you're not going to Vista. They had issues this week.
They're short on help.
Yeah. Is it after this week too? Okay. Foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, Bob, the final report on the annual comprehensive review.
Okay, so this is what we have so far. And I've really never had so many people crowd the podium. All right, so.
Between the cars and.
So one of the things that we haven't really developed yet is the annual comprehensive plan review. The memo that would go to the Board of County Commissioners, allowing them to know that the planning board is reviewed the comprehensive plan. Is this on?
There.
I don't know, can't hear.
We can barely.
Can you get any closer? It's not one of those kaleidoscopic ones. Periscopic, right? There I think is going to be a bit more of a review memo this time around, because we want to include discussions with the board regarding the feedback to update the plan, rather than just saying, hey, we reviewed it, and it's just, it's good to go. When we're embarking on the potential update here, pretty soon here. So I think what I'd like to do is try to prepare something for the June meeting. We do have items, so I'd like to prepare something that reflects what we're about to talk about as far as the comprehensive plan update, and incorporate some of that into the language for the board to look at. And then at that point, if everyone's okay with that memo and the language, we can tweak it, whatever. We can get that to the Board of County Commissioners as our statutorily mandated review of the annual review of the comprehensive plan. And let them know that the planning board is taking a strong, hard look at updating the plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds
Do
good.
you want to talk about the comprehensive plan?
Yes, so I know that discussion of the comprehensive plan update is on our agenda. I just want to double check with the board that we want to proceed with that now. Or if we want to have that, if we want to save that discussion for next meeting where maybe it wouldn't be so late. I just wanted to check.
How long of a discussion would it be?
We could probably do it in 20 minutes. again, this is just kind of initial conversations. There's really nothing to be decided or to be figured out this evening. We just kind of wanted to start talking about, as we already have talked about, we're going to be embarking on the comprehensive plan update. Obviously, it's going to be, a few years in the making. Vision 2025 is horizoning, if you will, in 2025. So it's, it's our intention to have something adopted in 2025 to, of course, replace and continue on. So just the conversation I'd wanted to have, again, tonight or with this initial presentation is just kind of what that's going to look like, what we're doing, kind of what comprehensive planning is. Of course, I know you folks already know, so it'll be a little bit of a repeater, but kind of what we're looking at to kind of get started. So
what, do you want to do it 20 minutes or?
Sure, I don't care. Whatever. I'll go get some more sugar and get another cup.
Yep. Let me grab my notes. Okay. I can take this off now.
I'll grab another cookie. Since what do you want? Since I can't get to go to Vista, so.
Yeah, get some more sugar. That's my plan. You're not getting Vista tonight.
You need a potty break? Lisa, you need a potty break?
Yeah, anybody need, a break or quick restroom while I find. I'm just going to exit there.
I don't really want to go to the grocery store now anyway. I don't need anything till Friday.
Back in my single days, that was what I did after planning, is I went to the grocery store. That's yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, you take the more chill chocolate.
I think so, yeah.
All right, y'all ready?
Yep.
Have your cookies and drinks and ready to go? Okay. Again, we'll just do this quickly. This is just the first of many, many conversations. Again, nothing's getting decided tonight or immediately or anything like that. As you folks know and remember probably, this is a process and it's going to take some time. So don't be concerned that this is our only time that we're going to be talking about it. So again, we are going to be embarking on our comprehensive plan update. Vision 2025 is our current plan that we're going to be reviewing and updating. I'm giving this presentation this evening to you folks, and then we're on the agenda for our Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board next Monday evening to give the same initial presentation. Let's see. You will find that my PowerPoints are very, very basic. I don't do the fancy stuff that Bob does. Just getting the words on the page is an accomplishment for me. So, again, what is a comprehensive plan? You folks already know, but again, just to kind of go over it. Of course, it lays out a long-term course of action based on the goals of the community. It's used to guide growth and development. It's really the county's vision for the future. And of course, when we say the county, we don't mean staff. I mean, obviously, staff is a part of it, but this is the county, this is the community's plan. This is their vision, and all the different stakeholders that go into that. That's of course, our residents, our business owners, our visitors, our local agencies, and more. All of the people who make up our community, that's what we're talking about when we talk about the county's vision. And again, you know that the Kansas statute mandates that we have to do comprehensive planning because we have zoning. We have zoning regulations, so we need to have our comprehensive plan. We review it annually, of course, as we just talked about, and we will be finishing up next month, and we update it as needed. So that's also mandated in that we make sure we do that. Again, just a quick summary. The plan is its decision-making guide. It's our basis for our regulations. It's flexible, adaptive, and broad. That's why we, review it and make sure, review it annually and then do, of course, more updates, every several years to make sure it's still working. If it needs to be changed, it needs to be modified. This is a fluid document. It's not rigid, it's not unchanging. We can make changes to it. It's not regulations, it's not specific. Again, it's very, very broad and has to do with a lot of different elements having impacted in the community. Riley County's comprehensive plan history. What I have on here is a little bit more than just the comp plan history, a little bit about zoning as well. The Riley County Planning Board was created in 1949. That same year, the county commissioners adopted a county-wide master plan. 1951, zoning regulations were adopted for the area surrounding the city of Manhattan, and subsequently in 1974, we got countywide zoning and subdivision regulations. Our first official document titled Comprehensive Plan was adopted in 1987. Since then, of course, we have our current plan, which is Vision 2025, adopted in October 2009. So you can see there was a pretty good span of time between, of course, 1987 and 2009. I believe they started about 2005 to work to update the plan. So that's a fairly significant amount of time to wait to update a comprehensive plan. Right now, we're sitting at about 13 years. Of course, it was adopted in 2009. Here we are in 2022, crazy enough. So it's been 13 years. So, most plans are written with a 10 to 20-year horizon. Comprehensive plans, we're seeing more towards the 20, 25-year range at this point. Other long-range plans, maybe are closer to the 10, but the comprehensive plans tend to be at least the 20. And again, even though they do have 10, 20, 30-year horizons, they're generally updated every 5 to 10 years, because we all know things can change really drastically, can change a lot in all kinds of different elements that have to do with the plan. And again, our current plan is 13 years old, so it's really, really due for a review and an update. And again, community's population changes over time. That, of course, impacts our long-term goals. Different population makeup might have different thoughts and input and attitudes towards county policies and how we do things. So it's an opportunity to review those goals. Again, make sure the goals, and I know that's something you folks do, of course, every year with the annual review, but this will, of course, get a little bit more in-depth, really looking at those goals and policy and objectives and make modifications as we need or want. Or, we can also decide that they're working great. We can modify them, or we can expand upon them, but the basics, maybe they're working just fine for our population, and that's what we will find out. And it also gives us a chance to review our current designated growth areas. That's another thing, just making sure that those are working how they should be, and how we want them to be, and if we need others, if we need modifications, things like that. So it just really gives us those opportunities to see what has changed and what needs to change. So how are we updating the plan? So again, a lot of public engagement and outreach. As I said before, this is the public's plan. This is the community's plan. As county staff, obviously we work with the folks to, formulate the plan, and, we have our own, input and attitudes as well. But again, this is the public's plan. Stakeholders, there's going to be a group of different folks, just like we had before, and I do have that list that we had used before, just a well-rounded group to specifically target. Now, stakeholders, again, that's the specific group we're going to target, we're going to talk to, we're going to have involved, but we're also going to have, of course, the public involved. I envision doing surveys, and again, all of this has been done before and is pretty standard for this sort of thing. Surveys and other outreach opportunities to, again, reach the public and see, what they're thinking, how we're doing things, how things are going, if things need to change, et cetera. So a lot of different ways to outreach and get people engaged and get their input. So schedule. So of course we need to create an outline for the update. How's that going to look? Again, what sections we want to update, all the different things that need to go into, reviewing and updating the plan. And also determining the involvement by staff, planning boards, county commissioners, and others. Again, that all kind of goes together. And it is our goal to have a consultant assist us at least for some of the more technical and meatier parts of the document, if you will. And that's something I've spoken to at least one of the commissioners about, and they're supportive of it. Obviously, we still need to, it's going to cost, and we, of course, need that approval and, need funding and whatnot. But I'm sure you all remember or know that Vision 2025 was done all in-house. And I mean, that's a major feat. I mean, it's an excellent document, and considering that it was all staff done. Honestly, we really just don't have the time or capacity to do that again. We're too busy to be able to dedicate enough time to the comprehensive plan update to have, we want to come out with a quality document, of course, and we're just too busy to be able to do that. So we really would like to get a consultant to help us. Again, it's not realistically going to be for the entire portion of it, but at least if we can get, a good chunk of assistance from a professional.
Would it be Elizabeth Garvin that's already helped us with other things over the years, or
So that hasn't
somebody different?
so it hasn't been decided yet, so we would do the RFP process like we did with the land development regulations document, and like, we do with other plans and things like that. So that's, again, what I would envision, issuing an RFP and going through, whoever submits to us, evaluating them, interviewing, and then deciding from there who works best for, best for our process. I mean, unfortunately, we are going to have to, look at the financial aspects of it as well. We don't really have a budget yet, so all of that will kind of go into, who we ultimately select to assist us. So. So what is being updated in the plan? And, I hesitate to talk about this too much because, again, this is just my perspective right now. That doesn't mean things are going to change. Obviously, it's all about the public input and the stakeholders and you folks and our Board of County Commissioners, the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board. You folks are all ultimately going to be the ones to say, what you want changed, what's not working, what needs to change, what needs to be added. I don't envision eliminating any sections that we have. I don't envision major modification or anything. I don't envision saying all of a sudden, oh, we're not ag anymore, now we're nothing like that. Realistically, we need to update and expand our existing sections. Again, just because it's been so long, we need to, review those and update, based on, what's happened over the last, 10, 13 years. Probably some reorganization, things like that, just seeing, the flow of the document if we need to make modifications to that. My initial thinking with a few of the new sections to add, and again, this is just my perspective starting out, we'll have these conversations and we'll talk about, the language of the document and what would actually go into these sections, of course. A new section, recreation and open space, like the county parks, or, we've talked a little bit about, and again, these are just conversations we've had, if somebody does a large plat, would we have them dedicate open space? Just things like that to have that discussion. I've talked a little bit with David Willis, our parks director. We do have a few master plans for like Fairmont, and one of the other ones I'm Seco Park. Yes, some master plans there for some of those park facilities that are a little bit older. So we might, look at doing some of that within the, the comprehensive plan, update a parks element, that sort of thing, parks and recreation. Economic development, that is a section that will probably be added. And I think you folks know that the Board of County Commissioners appointed a Rural Economic Development Advisory Board late last year, and they've had a couple meetings so far this year, so they've kicked that off. And so a lot of, their input and their, discussions will be, weaved in or discussed. And I know economic development can, evoke, pictures of something I learned from Bob called a cornfield mall. That's a new term I hadn't been familiar with, but that's not what it's about. I mean, it's not about, crazy commercial development in the middle of nowhere. This is about, retaining your existing rural businesses, including farms. I mean, those are our businesses. Retaining and growing the rural workforce. Recruiting new businesses and encouraging entrepreneurship. Another big thing that's changed a lot in the last year is broadband technology. So that's definitely something we're going to want to look at, especially for those rural areas that might not quite be served by reliable broadband. So So things like that, that's kind of what goes in the economic development, again, not proposing any, any crazy developments, any, big commercials or changing things like that. But again, looking from the rural side of economic development and what that means. In food planning, so the Food and Farm Council has been working on a master food plan, and it's actually almost done and ready to go. So that should be before the Board of County Commissioners for approval this summer. They are actually giving another presentation at the joint county-city meeting on May 19th. If you folks aren't familiar with the master food plan, the Food and Farm Council does have information on their website, and I'm sure you all know Vicki James. She's fabulous. She's out there in the community. Everybody knows her. Who's is head of the Food and Farm Council. So we will incorporate the master food plan into that. When we first started having these conversations about the master food plan, there are several of us from the county and of course several folks from the city staff-wise who are kind of the staff liaisons for each jurisdiction, and we did indicate or imply that so it'll be. I'm sorry, it's late. I'm rambling on. I apologize. So the master food plan will be adopted as a separate document. However, we do envision, and we've talked about, among the Food and Farm Council about having that element within our comprehensive plan. It's going to be a 20 or 30 page document, so I don't envision having the entire document within the comp plan. That would be kind of lengthy, but we will, incorporate parts of that into our comprehensive
Can
plan.
I ask a dumb question?
Please.
What is a master food plan? I've not heard of this.
Yeah. So it is a new thing for Riley County. A few of the counties around Kansas have one. So it's basically all about the food system. Anything having to do with the food system, whether you eat, whether you sell, whether you produce, farmers market, anything having to do with our food and how it's consumed, produced, thrown away, all of this different sort of things go into our food system. And so the master food plan is kind of our long-range document covering that, basically. So discussing it's county-wide, so it's, the city and the county are joint on this, but it is county-wide for the Riley County food system and how that all works. And just like any other long-range plan, it's got, of course, the goals and objectives and actions for each of the different, again, waste, having to do with food waste, food insecurity, food production, again, all of the different things, different elements that go into the food system.
Is there a document on this that's available?
There is a draft. I would need to see, it's not on our website yet. I believe it's on the Food and Farm Council's website, but I can double check that for you folks.
Would you be able to send us maybe just a link?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Because I was certain the thing was misspelled. That it was flood planning.
Flood planning.
But I figured that was part of the
Oh, you thought I left out the L? Fair enough.
That's how much out of the loop I was on the food plan.
Well, I read it as like food planning. What can I sign up for this thing?
Yeah, I was new to the board, and I was just thinking it was me. So they know what it is.
See, I'm glad you asked the
I always
questions.
ask the dumb questions.
I was going to Google it on my own.
The master food plan. I'm sitting there going like, okay, still explain
It's like, they're going to tell us how to farm now?
No. Nope, not at all. I will track down the draft and get a link or the draft itself to you folks.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
See where our minds lead us to late at night.
Late at night. We
You gotta ask questions.
You gotta ask the questions. So, and again, these are just initial, thoughts and whatnot. This is going to be determined after a process that we all go through, with public input. Boards such as yourselves, of course, the commissioners and other stakeholders, will really determine what needs to change in the document and, what needs to be added. Again, I don't foresee removing any sections, but there's going to just have to be some updates and expansion. Okay, so some next steps. Even though I feel like 2022 is quickly evaporating, we still propose to, again, establish stakeholders. And a lot of this, so what I'm, again, envisioning, for 2022, these are the things that we can do in-house, again, working with our boards and our commissioners and whatnot, amongst staff, we can, kind of guide a lot of this stuff, in-house to kind of prepare and lay the groundwork for the actual work that we'll hopefully have a consultant help us with over the next couple of years. So establishing those stakeholders, creating the public participation plan and kind of beginning outreach, getting the word out there that we're going to be doing this. I actually gave a couple presentations on this way back in November of last year to the intergovernmental luncheon and the county officials luncheon. So at least trying to, spread the word, get the word out there that this is going to be happening. Create the schedule, the outline, secure a consultant to start in 2023. There's a lot that is going to go into that. Obviously, I need to get the funding first to be able to do that. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Deciding the horizon year. Again, it's pretty standard to do a 20-year plan. Some go up to 30. So that's something, we can talk about, how far out we want to look. Assuming that we would probably update the plan again, hopefully within 10 years, probably a little bit less than we're doing at this time.
So this new
but-
plan will start like in January of '26, since the other one runs through '25?
Yeah, essentially, I do envision, adopting the plan, mid-2025, kind of, getting that settled and, getting on there. But yeah, it'll kind of, that one kind of horizoned, if you will. Again, not that the ideas and goals and objectives in that are complete, okay, we're done, throw it away, start over, nothing like that. But again, we're just going to bump out, our horizon year to update it based on that. And again, review what is and is not working in the current plan. So then we know what we'll need to do with our future plan based on what is and what isn't working. I say what we need from you now. Any initial thoughts or input on the current plan or the future plan, unless you have any immediate thoughts right now, which I'm happy to hear. This isn't your only chance, of course. There's, if you want to think about this, please definitely do, anything you have at any time. You know where we are. So, come chat with us, or, we'll have plenty more discussions in person, of course. So, amongst the board. And that's what I have for you. I apologize. I hope that worked out okay. That was my late night ramblings. So hopefully that all made sense. If you have any questions, please let me know either now or at any point in the future. Again, a lot more to come on this. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anything you want to add, Bob? That I didn't? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for hanging in, everybody.
All right. Anything else that needs to be brought up? Bob, yes. You can yell it from there.
You don't need to state your name or nothing. We know who you are.
We know who you are.
Just reminding the board that we have a Mylar out here for you to sign for you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you
and-
very much for your hard work this evening. I know it wasn't easy. See what happens.
Are you off? Are we off the clock? Oh, we gotta move, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion
She
carried.
can shut that also.
I can't move.
So we can
Can I
speak
end it?
freely.
Can I end the,
Huh?
can I end the Zoom?
Yeah.
Now that they, okay.
Was there anybody on Zoom?
Zoom is